breaks free. Jeremiah Love trying to go 98. Touchdown, Warren, in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Ancio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik with a touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
As we say every Monday, whether there's disruption, chaos, or everything goes according to plan, we have new evidence. And, well, there was chaos and there was disruption. And my goodness, even in the Big 12 at the top and along, of course, throughout the top 25, it was one of those weekends. We'll try to help wrap it up, summarize and give our opinion, hear from you too. Good afternoon for those of you watching us on YouTube, 365 Sports, and Twitter at 365 Sports YT. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and here we go, guys. How about this? There are 6, that's it, 6 undefeated teams in college football, and we are at October 20th with 6 weeks plus left in the regular season, much less just it's early in the year.
Oh yeah, and look, it's going to be harder and harder every week to continue to go undefeated. And like I said, I say it all the time. I just don't see teams going undefeated all that often anymore. And right now, all these 6 teams they still all have a chance to, but none of these 6 teams play each other because Ohio State and Indiana don't play each other and none of the others play each other. So theoretically, this is, one of these teams is not going to get knocked out by the other, but I still don't think that anybody's going undefeated. Look at A&M.
Not until conference championship week. Look
at A&M's stretch alone. They had Arkansas, that's a rival. They had last week and kind of escaped there. Now they have to go to Baton Rouge with LSU painted into a corner. That's another tough one. BYU just had their biggest rival, and they go in the Big 12, and they're in the Big 12, which is crazy every week. Georgia Tech probably has the best shot of anybody to go undefeated on the way out, given the fact that they don't play any ranked opponents for the rest of the year. But as we've seen, I think that means far less than it used to.
Yeah, this is fun. Just down to 6 after a chaotic and a disruptive weekend. Craig?
Yeah, no, it's a fun time to be a fan of this sport, even though the off the field can be very trying and yet entertaining too, depending on what the story and the timing of it all is. The on the field has seemingly never been better. I mean, as far as just unpredictability and everybody feeling that they've got a fair crack if they put the resources and the right coaches in place, they can make the playoff. They can upset some of the giant names and so on and so forth. And yeah, no matter who you are, you're not just going to be able to show up, line up, and go unscathed basically any longer. So it's an interesting group that I wouldn't have pegged necessarily at this point in the season. I mean, from the ACC, I certainly would have thought maybe Miami would be in this spot. Thought with the Big 12, BYU certainly a good choice, but thought Texas Tech would still be sitting here after this weekend. A&M, I don't know that many people would have picked them to be the lone unbeaten still in the SEC, so on and so forth. So everybody represented here. I mean, a group of 6. You've got the ACC, the Big 12, the SEC, and the Big 10. So everybody with the seat at the table, although somewhat to Paul's point, yeah, they don't play each other, but Ohio State and Indiana are going to have to play each other.
Yeah,
those are the two that'll have to play each other if things stay the way they are.
Well,
but everybody else can theoretically go the rest of the way and not play or stay unbeaten. But, those two are on a collision course.
There was a time in college football where you could literally have a bunch of teams that were undefeated. I say a bunch, 5 to 7 undefeated as you got into November, because you didn't have conference championship games at every conference and you didn't have the expanded conferences. Eventually, they all play each other. But in this particular case, you're right. All 4 Autonomy 4 conferences with 2 from the Big Ten plus the American Conference with Navy undefeated too. Now, down goes Texas Tech. They go into Tempe, Arizona, and ASU builds a big lead. Sam Leavitt was really pretty effective. ASU's defense, Arizona State's defense played lights out. Texas Tech either didn't want to run or couldn't run or didn't try to run, and they all of a sudden have this unbelievable comeback. But then Arizona State goes down the field, takes the lead again, and they beat what was a team that looked like the class of the Big 12, but Arizona State saying, hey, guys, let's not forget we are the defending champions. And here's the last play from the end zone on the ground view of Texas Tech trying to throw a not really long, but Hail Mary. And then there's the field storming and the ball just off the hands of a Texas Tech receiver, but it bounces harmlessly to the ground. And ASU gives Tech their first loss. At ASU, remember at this time last year, they were like 5-2, and then they went on a hot streak after losses to Texas Tech early in the year, and they also lost to Cincinnati. And not sure if that's what they're about to do, but a huge win for Kenny Dillingham. Tough loss for Texas Tech. It was a fun game to watch, but the Red Raiders looked like they were able to walk away, and yet they have their first hickey.
Yeah, Arizona State needs to get in the special teams room this week and work on a couple things because that almost cost them the game in a couple different regards. One of which I'll just say, I will never understand the squib kick, especially in that situation, as long as I live. I would rather just kick it out of the back of the end zone if I can. 80 yards is a long way to go to have to score a touchdown. I would not like to give them that opportunity. Even with waning seconds, I know you want the clock to start. I'd rather them have a longer way to go than a squib kick, which just usually doesn't end up well. But that's my only complaint for Arizona State was their special teams. They came and bowed up and played really good on defense all day long. Will Hammond, didn't look like the Will Hammond that we've seen sometimes when he comes in spot duty in his start. He wasn't great. The offense wasn't effective for Tech until late in the game. But I think what you saw in that game was Tech is legitimately really good in that they cannot have their A game and still almost win. And I think they'll probably not have their A game a couple more times this year and win those games because of this experience and what they'll do differently in the future.
Yeah, I think from here on out, October 18th could be Baron Morton Appreciation Day, because I think on Saturday, for those who maybe didn't appreciate him enough, and myself included, certainly felt differently by the end of the day and by the end of that result. And there were a lot of people, and I was not one of them. I understood the conversation. We talked about it a little bit. We didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I remember seeing people who were adamant after Texas Tech beat Utah, like, Will Hammond is clearly the best quarterback, and he clearly gives them the best shot, and he needs to be starting quarterback, like, immediately. And then Baron Morton comes back, and he's starter again after he heals up, and people are kind of like, oh, well, okay, I get it, but I still think Will Hammond gives him the best shot. And this is typically how it works, right? A guy comes in as a backup in a spot you're not expecting, performs well, and then when they're the guy, it looks a little bit different because it's a different situation. And I think just a lot of things happened last week. First of all, congratulations to Arizona State. It's a hell of a win. It's a great win for Kenny Dillingham. He said after the game that the reason they won that game, other than having Sam Leavitt, obviously, was that they got their ass kicked the week before. And had they not gotten whooped by Utah the way they got whooped by Utah, not just lost, but whooped,
dominated,
then they would not have probably won this game. That game, like, inspired and fueled them to put on the show they did on Saturday. So you can thank Utah in a roundabout way for firing up Arizona State for this game. And it's just interesting because all week long the conversation was about Sam Leavitt and whether he was going to play or not. And I was bemoaning the fact that it didn't look at one point like he was going to play. And I was like, damn, man, you want to see the best teams have their best players and all of that. And turns out, okay, he is able to give it a go. Well, we also find out simultaneously that Behren Morton's perennially hurt but not injured. Well, it turns out he's actually injured now. And now he can't play. And you think, well, okay, well, Sam Leavitt's still not 100%, and man, Will Hammond's looked great, so surely that'll be okay. And it turns out that it wasn't. We spent all this time talking about Sam Leavitt for good reason, because he was the difference maker in this game. Mm-hmm. But we also probably didn't spend enough time on what if Behren Morton doesn't play, and we gave them the benefit of the doubt to Will Hammond, and it turns out like that was the key difference in this game was Sam Leavitt played his ass off. And then Will Hammond did not have the best game and did not play as sharp as a Behren Morton probably could have played or maybe would have played in this game.
You mentioned it, and when Hammond came in, as you mentioned, when it was like in game, when Behren Morton went out a couple of different times, he looked really good. And you sometimes wonder if that's easier for a guy like that who's still young, although very talented, then have to think about it throughout the week.
He looked like a guy who had not started and yet. I mean, and that's what he was. Like he's not a start. He was not the starting quarterback. And I understand that there are outliers to this statement that I'm about to make, and that sometimes coaches can maybe be a little bit too cemented in their belief of who should start where and here, or who should play more. But most of them have good reasons for not doing it. And look, I think I feel confident enough in knowing this about Joey McGuire because the three of us know him better than we know most head coaches in college football, that he does subscribe to the best players are going to play. He's not out there like, well, no, I made this decision about Behren Morton and I'm going to stick to it forever. There's a reason that Behren Morton was playing over Will Hammond. It doesn't mean that they don't like Will Hammond. It means that Behren Morton is better prepared to win games in the Big 12 right now than Will Hammond is. And Behren Morton will not be the quarterback there in a very short amount of time because he'll move on to the next level in his life and won't have eligibility anymore. But Will Hammond will be the quarterback one day. It's just not today, and that's how it works most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think clearly they were putting the best players out there. And so no matter what fans or media thought, like, yeah, why is Behren Morton continue to start looking at what this Will Hammond kid did? Clearly there was a reason for it. And I think you saw that reason on Saturday. So I think between the fact that you were missing him, not only health-wise, but also in that game in particular, and you saw what the other side looks like in full. That's why I'm saying I think October 18th is now Behren Morton Appreciation Day. I also think Tech had a lot that they were talking about last week that had nothing to do with Arizona State, as we'll get into. There's furthering of the Tortilla talk. I don't think that affected this game, but I just think it kind of clouded the conversation heading into this game. The quarterback health questions, but also we're so distracted by Tech and the tortillas and all this other stuff that, I don't know how much thought we gave to, well, what if Arizona State just puts it all together and kind of just gave Tech the benefit of the doubt and didn't do what we should have always done when it comes to Arizona State and especially teams like this at home, but they're just so well coached that you knew they'd scheme up something great. And I think that, not only did Sam Leavitt play his ass off, but Arizona State outcoached them in many ways. I think Joey McGuire would admit and did admit after the game that there were some calls that he made that probably should have done something differently, probably should have gone a different direction, checked out of an offensive play call when he should have stuck with what his coordinators had already given him. And he admitted that as much on one sequence of events in the post game. So, yeah, man, I mean, that wasn't out of nowhere because Arizona State's the defending Big 12 champion and they were at home and they've got maybe the best quarterback in the league and they're very talented. But it did feel a little out of nowhere just because I didn't think the Tech train was going to go 100 miles per hour and then just slam shut or slam to a stop this week. Now, I don't think it's slammed to a stop. They still got plenty of room to win the rest of their games and all that. But this was just a bit unforeseen, even though it shouldn't have been totally unforeseen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a heck of a win because Arizona State could not afford another one if they wanted to repeat just as conference champions to get a chance to play for it. Still a long way to go. But then there's Kalani Sitake and also BYU. Well, what's this freshman quarterback, Barrett Bachmeier? Remember what Riley Nelson told us on Friday when we had him on the show that that, and even Kenneth Scott, the receiver, former receiver at Utah, how would he handle this? He handled it absolutely just fine. And here's the nail in the coffin. There's the touchdown on a quarterback delay. Gets pushed in the last few yards, made some people miss. BYU almost let that thing slip away at the end. With the onside kick, they were able to recover after Utah scored. But I'm telling you right now, that was everything we hear. If you've never been to it or you've never heard much about it, that game was everything that you would expect. And here's the post-game look, and then we'll discuss the game. Here's a drone shot of BYU, their beautiful stadium. Basically looks almost like you're looking over like the water in Cabo. It's so beautiful and blue. And BYU wins, stays unbeaten, and they are absolutely in the thick of everything imaginable.
Craig and I both picked Utah in this game, and our reasoning was the same in that Bear Bachmeier had shown capacity for making true freshman mistakes, of which the opponents that they'd had on the schedule had not made BYU pay for in a way that Utah could. So here's the thing. Utah did not make them pay for those mistakes because BYU didn't make them. Bear Bachmeier played a very clean game. He didn't put the ball on the ground. He didn't throw interceptions. So he didn't make silly freshman decisions at weird times, which happens. He became maybe not a freshman in the Holy War. Not to say that he won't make those mistakes again down the line, but in the Holy War this past weekend, he didn't make them. And guess what? BYU won. And Utah, there's a lot of good things to say about them. Devin Napier is an outstanding athlete. I've not moved off the Devin Napier fan club. I'm still a huge fan of his. I think they need to, because he has eligibility next year and can be back. I do think they need to get some big play people around him in the wide receiver position, which they don't really have, because it doesn't feel like teams are really scared of him throwing at all.
Why would you be?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, why would you be? I thought that Devin Napier would tilt this slightly in favor of Utah ultimately, but Bear Bachmeier was the star of the show, and he is a guy whose name we're going to be hearing for years to come because he is just a true freshman, and he's already leading this team to a 7-0 start. Just historically, they're on pace to match or to do some things they haven't done in a while, and this is all post a situation where you lost Jake Retzloff, not expecting that to be the situation you'd find yourself in late in the offseason. And they have to pivot, and they pivot to this kid in the transfer portal from Stanford, and the rest is history, and history looks like it could be pretty rife with some pretty huge moments over the next 4 years because he's already provided a couple of massive ones in just a very short amount of time and half of a season. But, yeah, that was an electric scene. Very cool picture there at the end of the blue all over the field. Almost looks like Kool-Aid powder spilled or like a blue drink spilled or something. It's just – yeah, that's just very cool looking. I mean, you see field stormings, but not in conjunction to that degree as far as the colors. So, yeah, it almost looks like blue powder was spilled all over something the way they're covering it up. And, what a great showing by the BYU folks. And you always hear about how legendary that venue and just the atmosphere is, and I think they proved that again on Saturday night, and it was a great win for them. They're in the lead now with Texas Tech's loss. You wondered if full chaos was going to take place, which would have meant Utah winning that game, but BYU's able to stem off full-on Big 12 chaos, and as a result, they get to sit on top by their lonesome in the driver's seat of the Big 12 now with half a season to play. Now, for them, the toughest stretch is upcoming. They've got some big games starting this weekend. Last I looked, they were underdogs to Iowa State coming up. But as far as
the roads, afternoon game
in Ames in the afternoon. So I mean, we're going to be talking about them for the next 4 weeks about the games that they have in front of them, and especially now that they're in the lead pack. But yeah, Bear Bachmeier was so impressive. Chase Roberts is so impressive. They're deep. I mean, I've talked about them every week in the Mojo rankings. They're just so well rounded. Like they're good at everything, and they're not just good at like above average at everything. blocking, tackling, pressure, catching, like everything you can do, they seem to do pretty damn well. And the one weakness you think they would have would be that freshman quarterback, and yet he was a strength for them and the better quarterback on Saturday night. So, not going to sit there and put their name right in the Big 12 championship game, because we did that with Texas Tech, and now look, all bets are off. But I think BYU through 7 weeks, especially with Tech's loss, looks like the most well-rounded and best team in the league. But they will be tested, and it's the Big 12, so they could end up with like 3 losses when all was said and done. From a Utah point of view, I'm waiting to be impressed. And it's been like a year and a half of hearing talk and pushback and things like that. And I've actually been very nice to Utah in comparison to a lot of other Big 12 media folks. I'm not trying to play the let's dunk on Utah game. But my God, it's just, when am I supposed to be impressed and have something to back up what I'm saying in defense of you sometimes? Because another big game, another game where you feel like they didn't put on their best and didn't look their best and fell short. And this one in particularly touchy because it's another loss to BYU, who now owns this series as of late, and especially in the 2 years that you've been in the Big 12. And yeah, Devin Napier was just so one-dimensional. I mean, there was just like, if he couldn't run the ball, then good luck to see where he's going to throw it to, and if anybody's even going to be open to do anything with it. BYU dominated that game, and yet it was still a back and forth. I don't think it was like the greatest game ever. I think Utah made it interesting on the scoreboard later on because it kind of always felt like it was Utah's, but I always felt like it was BYU's game. But yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of that. I don't think it quite lived up to the hype because I thought Utah would have played a little bit better.
Oh, I think it did. It wasn't maybe – I think it did. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Maybe the more explosive plays.
Closer at the end. Yeah. Not just like it looks close on the scoreboard because they scored late type of thing, but more of like a back and forth. That's the only thing that fell short for me, but it lived up to it for the most part, and it was a great win for BYU.
They both rammed the ball down their throats with Utah having what would they have? The 226, BYU 202. They both averaged 4.8. BYU gave up 6.1 yards a carry, but they made plays. They had 11 plays behind the line of scrimmage. BYU's defense, including 3 sacks. Utah had 8. I loved it. I thought, like I even said this again, I don't tweet nearly as much as I used to because I used to tweet, oh, there's a first down. I thought watching that game that I would wake up sore the next morning. It was so much. I love those games. I like the Alabama and Tennessee shootout too, or Georgia Ole Miss, which we'll get to. But you could feel it, the intensity like we've always saw and heard. And I just thought it was not Utah at its best, and I think BYU had a lot to do with that.
Oh, yeah, they had absolutely a ton to do with that. They're a very good team, and they just think that further triple stamped it on Saturday. I was already a believer, as a lot of people were. But, yeah, I mean, now you've got the big Holy War out of the way. You won that in convincing fashion. Your run game's nasty. Your defense is nasty. Your true freshman quarterback's nasty. Your receiving core is nasty. Like, they are a good football team. And I think, we're still get to see them against Tech. They got Iowa State coming up on the road. So they've got some challenges, but that was a great win on Saturday. And I do want to say it did live up to, I was just thinking
I know
a bit more back and forth at the end.
Like a last drive to win it, which
like last year.
Yeah.
Like I was, almost spoiled by last year's, game because
we didn't need Mark
crazy.
Harlan getting fined again if it was like last year.
But it was one of the better games of the weekend.
By the way, you mentioned BYU. Cincinnati's still undefeated.
You're right.
In the conference, after the loss, they opened up the loss against the about the dive into the pits of hell, Nebraska. But no,
I was thinking about undefeated on the year. So yeah, you're right. Cincinnati's undefeated in the Big 12 as well.
And that's who Baylor plays this week. Go ahead.
Nebraska should be in the Big 12. That's why we think that.
They need to be in the Mountain West or something.
But BYU makes it so hard to beat them just by being themselves. Like, it's not like there's nothing that is, you watch teams and sometimes you've seen teams that are spectacular and they're just, like you said, Craig, they're good across the board. So they're not going to beat themselves like all that much other than like the mistakes, but they're just so good at all the little things that they make it hard for you to exploit when they do make mistakes because they kind of clean it up so quickly. And they just didn't make any mistakes in that game. I just kept waiting for Bear Bachmeier to play a little hero ball, and he didn't at all. Not once.
No,
And
And Warren, somebody in the chat goes, it's still hard for me to remember that he's a quarterback because of that unique number of 47. To think he wasn't even on their campus until May. And look what he's done. Yes, they've got a tough schedule. And that's how you want. You want to be able to go earn it, but they sure did Saturday night.
No, they definitely earned it. And, the 47 looks weird, but get used to it because we're going to be seeing it for quite a while. And, he was super solid. His ability to run the football, I mean, and sometimes even when it's predictable, like and the times when they will call for him to run the football, like run it right up the gut on 3rd and 14 and pick up 13 yards, like that kind of a thing. Or the first down, just pick up the first down. He's athletic. He's smart with the football. And, that was a hell of a game. I mean, both teams ran a lot better than I thought that they would. Not too many turnovers, but the couple turnovers did cost Utah dearly, super physical. And, I just think that, it was a game that we expected a lot out of. And for the most part, it delivered on that. And I think, BYU right now has got to be feeling like they're in a really good spot, and they should. But, I do need to make mention of Cincinnati. I'm not trying to forget them intentionally. No. I was thinking more about being undefeated and being the team that's there on the verge of the, right there in the top 10 discussion as BYU is right now. But Cincinnati will have something to say about things. Texas Tech still will have something to say about things. Arizona State obviously has something to say about things. And Utah can still be a disruptor as well in the rest of the schedule. So, man, I mean, 2 days ago, we were talking about Texas Tech being the class of the league, and now we're talking about a different team, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if in a couple of weeks we're talking about somebody else again, because that's the nature of the beast with this league. It's supposed to be wild and unpredictable and supposed to be a lot of teams who see each other on equal footing, and therefore you get a lot of parity. And I think you've seen that bear out once again this season. But right now, BYU, Cincy, and now ASU looking like the hot teams, and we'll see how Tech's able to recover and kind of lick their wounds and move on from that.
We'll have a segment a little bit later on. We will have Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports, at 4. We'll also look at the AP Top 25, but not even get into it now. We'll get into that, plus the bangers in the 4 o'clock hour, but also look back, mention Cincinnati, also others winning in the Big 12 were TCU, UCF, and Houston also winning. Now, couple of other teams that have come back from not the dead, but from shocking starts in certain ways. Alabama, my goodness, they have climbed right back in the middle of everything. They have now beaten 4 consecutive ranked teams who have a combined record when they haven't played Alabama of 23-1. Georgia, Vandy, what a win for them. We'll get to that. And then Missouri and Tennessee, the pick 6 right before halftime. Just Alabama does look fun. If you're winning, it's great. They're playing one good team after another, and that they had not much room for error, and they have found themselves right back in this thing.
Look, Florida State beat them so bad that they left all their good in that game, and Alabama got better again.
They left their luggage at a Spirit Airlines terminal.
Look, and I'll talk about it later. You have no idea how many times I've woken up in the last 2 nights going, how do you beat Alabama and lose to Stanford? But what Kalen DeBoer has done is just what he's done everywhere else. The dude wins. He wins at every level. He got Washington into the playoff. He wins. The guy wins. I get that Alabama fans were totally spoiled, but there was going to be a growing pain or two when you get a new coach after the greatest college football coach who will ever walk this earth retired. When that happened, you were going to have some adjustment. Your adjustment was a moribund 9-3, which many teams would absolutely kill for. And you start out the year with a loss, and everybody's like, all right, that's it, Kalen DeBoer. He ain't one of us down here in Bama. I don't give a piss about nothing. And then all of a sudden, Kalen DeBoer becomes Kalen DeBoer again and goes.
I saw a note about how he just finally said, I'm going to do it my way and stop trying to appease everybody in the Alabama fan base with what they think or what they used to see. You're right, Paul. He just finally he's coaching the way he wants to coach. Doesn't mean they're going to run the table, but they do sure seem to be much more explosive and playing really nice and free and easy.
They sure as hell might run the table. I mean, the way they're playing right now, an incredible stretch of the last month of 4 straight top 25 victories. I mean, that's an incredible run by the Tide to beat Georgia in Athens, to beat Vanderbilt, who's the talk of everything right now, to beat Missouri on the road, and then to go and now beat an arch rival in Tennessee at home, and to jump out early and then to close that thing on out. I mean, that's a hell of a stretch that's going to be not just really unmatched by most, if not all this year, but is unmatched by most in most years. To win 4 straight top 25 games is pretty ridiculous. So you're going to have a break in that with South Carolina this week, unfortunately, because if they had been ranked, you would have had a shot at maybe playing like 7 in a row against ranked teams, but South Carolina's not in the poll. So we'll see how that goes for them here at the end of the week, but you'd expect them to be okay handling that. And then LSU and Oklahoma, if they're both in the polls by the time they play. But yeah, Ty Simpson's super impressive. And just the whole, I don't even think you call it a turnaround, because turnaround would imply that they'd had some things to like work through and work around and like things. It was a loss. It was a loss. And yes, dating back to last year, a couple more losses than Alabama fans are used to. But yeah, all that talks out the window, all the hot seat, even though it never really got to that extreme, but all of the, was he the right guy to replace Saban, and is this going to work? And all those kinds of questions are definitely out the window until he loses again. And then they'll all be right back, I'm sure. But no, he's done a good job of righting the ship, and they look really good. And it's kind of cool to see. It was fun to see Alabama panic there for a while. I wouldn't mind going back to that and them actually having to sit in that for a little while as opposed to for like 2 weeks, just because they're so spoiled. Roll Tide and everything, but it's true. But yeah, they are right back in the pilot seat, but it's cool to see it with somebody other than Saban flying the plane. It's kind of cool to see it differently with a new guy in charge there. So, yeah, that was an impressive win.
Put that up again, that graphic, if you don't mind, Brandon. Look at it. I want you to think about this again, the one about Alabama. Do you still have it? They have 5 combined losses, and 4 of those 5 are to Alabama. Tennessee's losses to Georgia. And that's who they've beaten back to back to back to back. It's very, very impressive. And then it all started out, you want something else?
I mean, yeah, just they're 23-1, and all those or was it
23-1 is the record of the teams they've beaten 4 consecutive weeks, other than losing to Alabama.
So if not for Alabama, Georgia would be unbeaten, Vanderbilt would be unbeaten, Missouri would be unbeaten, and Tennessee would only have 1 loss. That's pretty incredible.
And then it all started. There's always a catalyst, right? Like you got to strike the match if there's going to be a fire or dry wood. Blame this on Louisville, Jeff Brom and the Cardinals. What a win on Friday night. They dictated the game from start to finish. Miami trying to get in field goal range, and Carson Beck throws a pick. And Miami wins the Snellenberger Trophy because he coached at both programs. There's Jeff Braun in the post game. And listen to this with him. He now has beaten number 2 Ohio State in 2018. Number 2, Iowa in 2021. Number 3, Michigan State in 2021. Number 10, Notre Dame in 23. Clemson, number 11 in 24. And now number 2, Miami. And that's in the last 7 years as the head coach at Purdue. And, of course, now he's been at Louisville.
Yeah, this is one of those things that, sometimes it's not great to go back to your alma mater. But the fans in Louisville essentially demanded this. Like when Scott Satterfield was there, they basically treated him, and he's a very good coach. They basically could have just called him, hey, not Jeff Brom. Hey, coach, not Jeff Brom. How's it going? How's today? Not being Jeff Brom. And he's like, I'm just, trying to get players to come to Louisville. You're like, you know what they would if you were Jeff Brom. Like, that's how people kind of treated him there. And you kind of understand why he's like, you know what? That Cincinnati job comes open. I'm going to go get that one. And then they can go try and hire Jeff Brom. Which they did. That's the first family they're the Mannings of Louisville, and that's gone really well. Now, Louisville will now have to be on defense, because I do think that there are some schools that will come after Jeff Brom. Will he leave his alma mater? Because I don't think he will, because holy cow, like he's got a great thing going here. They've got a great shot to win the ACC.
Yeah, he's rolling, and I got a feeling again, we don't know. We'll get to coaching carousel and all that stuff later in the show.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, you're right about the coaching carousel, but it's just a hell of a win. Yeah. I mean, to beat Miami is just, regardless of whatever the hell it does for him and Louisville and all of that. I mean, that was as you said, the light that started the whole fire getting underway there on Friday night that spread throughout the rest of the weekend. So, yeah, I don't know anything about Louisville moving forward, but that was an incredible win for them right now, and a fun win that I think everybody enjoyed seeing outside of Miami fans on Friday night. And the Carson Beck that I felt like I was watching the past couple of years, and the one that made me more on the negative side when it came to just the overall talk about him, I had started to put that guy away, right? I was giving him his flowers here as of late, and then all of a sudden he showed up again. He popped out of the closet, and surprise, guys, I'm back. And 4 interceptions later, Miami is eating their first loss of the year. I mean, yeah, just a bad showing. I don't know how hurt he is or what's going on. But that was bad Carson Beck, and that was a terrific win for a Louisville program who doesn't really know their place in the bigger universe here, I think, in the next few years. I think Miami is also certainly trying to figure that out as well. But the ACC is a wide-open league, and I think there are years when Louisville's definitely going to be contention, and every year you got to take them account. I just never really bought into the upset this time around, and I probably should have given it more thought, but yeah, they turned Carson Beck over. They played good defense, and that was a hell of a way to kickstart the weekend and see old familiar faces like Miller Moss, running the show, and with Chris Bell, and yeah, just an incredible win for the Cardinals.
Chris Bell's a wagon, dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude,
he's a big old wide receiver. I loved watching this game on Friday night. It was a fun one.
Why?
I mean, I got to find joy other places. But no, it's just good because I like watching two good football teams play against each other. And look, Carson Beck is not spectacular. I think that's why people at Georgia were disappointed in him, because he came in as a 5-star recruit and they expected him to be this spectacular, carver upper of defenses. And that's not really what he is, but he's good, but he's going to have those days where, it wasn't humming for Miami, and he forced a lot of throws and he threw a bunch of picks, and it was bad Carson Beck. Now, good Carson Beck could come back next week. Yeah, they really kind of got Miami on their heels early, and then because of that, it just kind of set off the rhythm that Miami has had. And if not for a fumble on a ridiculously hard hit late in the game that Miami returned and then scored, it would have been an absolute blowout by Jeff Brown.
Miami ran for just over 60 yards in that game. They are 77th in the country in rushing yards per game. That means you're relying on Carson Beck more than you probably want to, and also doesn't mean that you have to worry about the run game as much, and that puts pressure on him.
Why did Georgia struggle last year? Because they did not have playmakers on the outside that they do now. I mean, a couple of them are back, but they didn't have Zachariah Branch and guys like that, and they didn't run the ball as well as they have in the past last year. Georgia's doing better now because Gunnar Stockton's maybe more of a fit for what they do, but Carson Beck has playmakers all over the outside. He's got good running backs, but if you shut down the running game, it puts him in a pickle, and that's how Louisville won the game.
That's the way it is for any quarterback, really, though. But he's not going to be a guy you want to see throwing the ball 40 times a game.
And if I'm remembering correctly, only one of those actually or I guess none of them actually led to points as interceptions. Like there's 2 punts, I think, were a result of the first couple of interceptions, and then Louisville fumbled right after the third interception, and then the fourth interception sealed the game.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was throwing pick sixes and they were running them back and everything. It was like they just disrupted drives enough, and they jumped out to that early 14-0 lead, and that obviously created that kind of chemistry where you go, ooh, okay, 14-0. Like, at worst, Miami's going to have to dig out of this. This will be interesting. And then, yeah, it was just a tight game that you still thought at the end Carson Beck's going to lead them down the field, and they're going to at least tie this thing up. They had a golden opportunity in Louisville territory to at least kick a field goal and send it to overtime. And I think if you get to overtime, given your whole situation, that maybe you feel great about being able to win it. But instead, he throws finally the killer pick that says, all right, we're not coming back from this one. And that was, I just couldn't believe it.
And they were in field goal range when he threw it. It would have been long, but it would have been in range.
Yeah, no, they were right there. I mean, they had time to get a little bit more yardage if they needed to, but they could have scored a touchdown. They had enough time to do that, but he throws the pick, and that one you couldn't come back from like the other three. So, yeah, just a bad night for Carson Beck, and a bad night for Miami. And a great night for college football fans because that's exactly the way we wanted the weekend to start off, and it led into everything else. And
chaos.
It's all chaos.
Hey, by the way, when it was 17-10, Miami was at the Louisville 7 when they settled for a field goal. That's probably what you're talking about. And then Louisville turned around and they went down the field and scored to increase it to 24-13. Appreciate those of you watching us on Twitter at 365 Sports YT and also on the YouTube channel, 365 Sports. We do appreciate you for that. A couple of other notes now in college football. There's some other games. Real quickly, I love watching. I want to get to the coaching changes. I love watching the Notre Dame USC game. Notre Dame's running backs were phenomenal. USC is like, they're bad. It's not like they were just being pushed around, even though they had a lot of yards rushing against them. That series comes down to continuing based on an argument that Notre Dame wants to continue to play it late in the year. That's one of their longtime rivals. And USC wants to continue the series, but they want to play it prior to conference play. I don't know how they're going to come to an agreement, but they don't need to end that series because of just egos.
You want me to tell you how they solved that? 1 year they play it late in the year. The next year they play it early in the year.
Yeah. It also could be that's what we want, knowing you're not going to get it, and so it doesn't continue.
Well, it was an excellent game, and it's fun to see USC be good again. As far as being competitive and in the mix, and I think that it's been almost nice as well to not hear the constant Lincoln Riley sort of chatter. Like he's not been really much of a factor in the conversation. I think. Maybe some of that's just people have stopped caring
well, he also hadn't said anything smart ass or
he hadn't put any cooking photos on Twitter to get roasted for, so that's smart. Whoever advised him to stop showing his cooking on social media, probably why it's a little quieter around there as well. But that was an excellent football game that I really enjoyed and a good back and forth fight. Notre Dame's just a hell of a lot of fun to watch, man. I mean, Jeremiah Love's just such a dude. And Price, a young man from the state of Texas, Jadarian Price, a hell of a weapon as well for the Irish. But, I liked that game a lot. And I did spend a lot of time there towards the end as was sort of being decided, thinking about how I've never – like this has not been I need to have this rivalry or I don't feel as full as a college football fan like I would feel about Oklahoma, Texas, or Ohio State, Michigan. But after watching and kind of listening to a Saturday – I still don't feel all the way there, but I'm much more inclined to feel that way about this game. And I do think that it needs to stick around, and I do think they need to figure out how to keep it around, even if both sides have to give a little bit. And Todd Blackledge, who was doing that game on Peacock, he actually had a graphic that flashed up, and I was going to bring this up for tomorrow, and we still can. But he had his rivalries that must continue no matter what in college football. And he had Oklahoma, Texas, Army, Navy, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn, Iron Bowl, Florida, Georgia, and then USC, Michigan. And I thought it'd be interesting to maybe ask the question tomorrow of who would be like who would be number 7? Like, not like who else, but like who would be number 7, 8, 9, whatever. How would you fill that out? And I was sitting there thinking about it, and I hadn't really thought about that topic all that much, but I think that's a pretty spot on list. And I do want to see Notre Dame USC continue. I didn't really have a strong opinion on it leading into this weekend, but now I do.
They have they're two blue bloods, both of them locked into blue blood immortality. I can remember being in Japan as a maybe freshman in high school, listening to the Far East Network the year that Anthony Davis scored 6 touchdowns to beat them. I know that's 50, 60 years ago, but it has so much pageantry. It has so much pageantry, and I enjoyed it at the end of the year because Notre Dame didn't have like Washington State, K-State, Texas and A&M. They have others, but that was the one that kind of, to me, was always the great game that they played every year.
And I'm not a fool to the history or anything like that. It's just it's never registered on that same scale as heavily as when I'm sitting here now. You realize, it could go away, and all of a sudden you go, oh no, wait, no, we do need this type of game. So. You realize once it might be taken away from you. And so I think that's where a lot of people are with that one. But that was a great game that lived up to the hype, and what a win for the Irish.
2 of the running backs for Notre Dame are from Texas. One you mentioned from Denison, Jadarian Price, and also Kendron Young from Lufkin, who's been out with an injury. They've done a great job going in, get about 1 or 2 guys a year from the state of Texas. A little bit later on, we'll look at the coaching carousel. We'll look at the top 25 when we come back. A couple of other nuggets in college football that we want to get to. Who won the pick'em? Who won the gift card? All of that and more. It's a twofold story. This is 365 Sports, and it's Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. What does that mean? As you get older, I'm 66, so this started for me a long, long time ago, but you can get your blood work tested. Dr. Petty will take care of that appointment, get your blood results, check your testosterone level, and if it is too low, because there's a number, he kind of knows it. It's not just like, oh, let's make one up. No, he knows where it needs to be, kind of the lower end or the ceiling number, and sometimes it could be too much. But Dr. Petty will find out what your testosterone level is, and if it is too low. You have symptoms of you're lethargic, you're not sleeping well, your sex drive is down, all of the above, maybe just one. One out of every 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. He can increase it so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be at Petty Clinic, lowt.com.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And of course, online at golfballs.com.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
It's back 0% for 72 months on all 2025 Ram 1500 trucks during the Drive into Fall event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab with a massive $16,000 off, or a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $12,000 off, and both at 3.9 for 72 months. And if you drive a Ford, Toyota, or GM, get an extra $1,500 bonus cash. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
It's football season, and we can create your outdoor tailgating spaces that is actually a part of your home. Bifold doors that tie in the inside and the outside, and you can gain anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 square feet living space, all while taking in the big game, poolside. Call us at Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath, where we can create your unique tailgating space.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports, around the corner, top of the hour. But the pick'em in Week 8, there was a 5-way tie at 7-3. Paul Catalina, retired stockbroker, Barry Crawford, S. Michael DeHart, and me, 7-3. However, there's a tiebreaker factor that's pretty cool. You pick any of the games that are a part of it. There's like 10 games. You pick one of those 10 games and what you think the over-under total points will be. And Paul picked right on the nose, 45 for BYU, Utah, and I was 6 points off that. So he wins the tiebreaker over me, retired, Barry, and S. Michael at 7-3. I missed the Miami, Clemson, and Texas Tech games. Now, Paul, here is your gift card to give Amanda.
Thank you. I appreciate finally accomplishing something. I've not been great at picking games this year.
Open that up.
And let's see. Here we go.
Like Ed McMahon with Carson.
Yeah, I know.
The $100 Visa gift card, thanks to North Star Funding Partners and our great friend Kim Coulter.
Yeah, there.
What does it say?
Amanda's on
it says Amanda's name on the
Yes.
gift card.
So
yeah,
there you go. That is, again, it's just good to feel like a champion for once. It's been a rough year for me.
If you win twice, then you got to thank the Academy. Now,
yeah, I do.
Speaking of a winner, Brian Burt from Northern Iowa. Remember I mentioned him? Look where he works every day. Got a friend of his with a 160-acre farm in Northern Iowa. Says he watches us almost daily. He's a huge college football fan, loves the show. Thank you, huh?
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, that's right. There should be a baseball field, Field of Dreams. Brandon, we'll do the other thing later, okay? Because I want to get into this. Kirby Hocutt, remember last week some of the stories surrounding Texas Tech, the Big 12, and KU and that game and the Tortilla Gate and the pocket knife and all of that. And they were fined, etc. Craig and Paul, they've taken it now to another level. And Kirby Hocutt, right, saying no more, nothing. Opening kickoff, no, nothing. We are getting rid of anything tortillas.
Yeah, Kirby Hocutt was a part of a press conference earlier today, and he said that they are no longer going to encourage nor permit fans to throw tortillas during the opening kickoff. This was following, yes, all of the to-do last week. I don't know if you mentioned the $100,000 fines that
I said fines, but not the number.
Yeah, the $100,000 fines if fans continue to throw tortillas there in Lubbock. And so no matter how many millionaire, billionaire boosters you have, and no matter how much, you're able to kind of flaunt that, you get popped with $100,000 6 times a year, 7, 8 times a year. That still adds up for an athletic department that's doing pretty well for itself. So, this really got rocky with the whole Kansas situation and Leipold's complaints, and then the whole forensic examination of the pocket knife story. And that turned out to look bad on KU as much as anything else, because it wasn't what it was portrayed to be by Lance Leipold. And that's why he apologized for it and cited emotions after a loss as part of the reason for why his story wasn't totally accurate. But that didn't just put the story to the side. It ultimately it created more of a conversation about, well, what's Tech going to continue to do about this? Or are they just going to pay fines, or what are they going to do? And so, Kirby Hocutt coming out today and saying they're not going to encourage it. They said we control our own fate in every situation on the football field, as well as with our event operations. We know that as Red Raiders, no one tells us what to do. We make our own decisions, and we encourage actions because they are the right thing to do. We have an opportunity, and we are on the cusp of a very special football season. I asked Red Raider Nation to continue to give these players, this team, and all of our Red Raiders all of our support and all of our energy to make sure basically that we get them to Arlington. But he said that they cannot risk letting their actions penalize the football team. The stakes are too high, and we need to help not risk penalizing our team for throwing tortillas. Simply, let's not do it. The situation is on me. I leaned into this, throwing tortillas at the beginning of the football season. Now I must ask everyone to stop, and I must ask our staff to enforce it on game days. So
good for him.
Good for Kirby Hocutt. I think he handled that as well as he possibly could have.
Because I wondered if he was. We talked about part of this was him.
Yes, it was
leaning into Part of it is also just the nature of Tech fans, football fans, the tortillas, the tradition, and all that.
Tribalism,
and there's, and there's never good, like, don't tread on me, son.
Yeah.
I'll throw my tortillas whenever I want. But also part of it was him, like, just like a little squirt of lighter fluid. When
he said basically like the athletic directors all voted without even talking to us about it, and they made it a whole 15-1 thing.
Yeah,
and,
who do you think this is about?
Right,
The tweet, I think that, and it was about them. And so for him to admit that, it takes some backbone and some some class, because a lot of times it would be like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, you can't control these damn kids, and their tortillas.
Now, there's a chip on the shoulder, and Texas Tech fans have sometimes felt left out. Now they're feeling good about themselves, and they should, because of the momentum, despite the loss on Saturday in Tempe, Arizona. But yeah, it's one of those fan bases that if you tell them no, that means it's a green light to go do it.
I did, however, see a guy go, "This is BS," and if I'm Tech, this just fires me up. And he's like a Texas State fan. It's like, dude, so you're just like a trouble causer, basically, is what you are, because you're encouraging it, just almost like, don't tread on me, or you can't tell me what to do type of thing. And then it turns out you don't even go to the school. So I don't know what you're doing in the combo. But regardless, a lot of people had opinions on this last week. And we knew it was going to have to eventually reach a point where, in order to probably stem folks like that, who are going to only probably bring more tortillas now that you've told them no, you were going to have to outright put a ban on it. And so that's what they've done. And it just happened a little bit quicker than I think we anticipated that it might. But it's not a surprise that they're calling for this. I just commend Kirby Hocutt for handling it and acknowledging that, he played it up as much as anybody and kind of created some of that attitude. So I think it's good on him to own that, and to own that. And that way, when you're telling these people like, hey, look, I'm just as guilty. I was pumping this up, but I'm going to take a step back, and we all have to. I think that's the right way to handle it.
Because there have been a couple of times that, he was the spokesman for the college football playoff, remember, for a while. It was like a 2-year term, whatever. But there was a couple of different times where he has fought back against the Big 12, and he probably tried to here and then realized, is it really worth the fight that we need to take on?
It's sorry, go ahead.
No, is it worth the fight? Let's just go back to just worrying about winning football games and all this other stuff.
It's unfortunate, because it is a tradition that spans, I think, 3, 4, 5 decades now, like going back to the 80s, I believe. So it's been around for 40, almost 50 years now at this point. So that's pretty good. And I know a lot of Tech folks that I've crossed paths with in life. They've been a part of tortilla tossing and love Texas Tech more than life itself and all that. So I think, the spirit takes a little bit of a hit, but they had to do something. It was becoming problematic, and you always have people that take it too far. And I think that's what you were going to run into sooner rather than later. So to just outright say, all right, we're done entirely, I think is probably better than, all right, you can bring them in, but only throw them in the first half, because then there's no doubt going to be people, for better or worse, that we're going to go around that somehow or another. So just, we're not doing it, period, is probably the easiest way to try to just curb it all off.
All right, A1. I know. I just did it on purpose, saying, and I did see this from another Tech writer, that started back as late as the 1980s, and 92 was a year that, in fact, some people think that's really when it kicked off. Tennessee driving against Alabama in that game earlier. We always try to throw a couple of interesting, or not funny if you're a Tennessee fan, but when they threw the pick, Joey Aguilar threw the pick at the 2-yard line, and Alabama ran it back for a touchdown. Brown did. Here is a shot of the Tennessee offensive coaching staff. I mean, God, first of all, Joey Aguilar has been one of the, I think, really good stories in college football this year. Tennessee's good, but again, they've lost to Georgia and Alabama. But look at that look, like, no. And then he went 98 yards.
Yeah.
At the end, as clock expired in the first half.
Yeah, that was a gut punch of all gut punches. And I don't know, I remember when I saw it, I wonder, what do you do when something like that happens right before the half? Because usually, the worst thing that usually happens for a half when you get aggressive is somebody intercepts it and they fall down. You miss a field goal. You don't get, somebody drops a pass, you don't get the touchdown, those kind of things. That's what happens. But this was a huge, just momentum shifting, momentum grabbing kind of a thing that, you know, right as the clock expires, you've got Josh Heupel and that crew have to go in the locker room and be like, all right, guys, you really have to forget about what just happened. You're like, how?
Yeah, how do you
we do that?
Yeah, it's hard to do that. Tough loss for Tennessee.
Yeah, I know that Maurice Linguist, assistant coach, got a lot of credit from Brown for kind of tipping him off and giving him a heads up on what to look for in a story I was reading after the game. And so, yeah, to have the ball on the 1 yard line, you're going to score a touchdown. I mean, like, I don't think Tennessee has any doubt that they're going to score a touchdown being posted up on the 1 yard line. And instead for it to be a 99-yard touchdown the other direction. Yeah, that was an absolute killer and didn't completely change, didn't solve the game. But, man, it was a huge, massive, incredible play at a really opportune time for Tennessee to go put some points on the board. So what a showing by Bama. What a great play and what a great job by Maurice Linguist to recognize whatever he recognized and give his guys a heads up to help make that play.
He played at Baylor, by the way. Ended up as a graduate of safety at Baylor. Now, of course, the co-DC and defensive backs coach at Alabama. When we come back, Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports. Then we're going to dive into the AP Top 25, look back at what we haven't discussed when it comes to the Big 12, bangers and all that other stuff. We got a lot to get to, and this is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco, and homecoming is around the corner. Now, listen, I know they lost again, and I know that they don't play this weekend at home. That might be a pretty good thing. They're playing on the road against Cincinnati, but the Baylor Club has all sorts of festivities, even if football season's in the rearview mirror, which it might be sooner than later. They have a fantastic place to eat dinner, lunch, brunch. The menus are stacked with great menu items and food, drinks that the top shelf chefs do for the Baylor Club. Also, with homecoming around the corner, they'll have special events throughout, like constantly leading up to the game against UCF in a couple of weeks. But they also can hold other events, not just for homecoming, but maybe an event you have. They had the tip-off luncheon when Brett Yormark was in town last week in front of hundreds of people. That's what they can do. They can make one space even larger if they need. It's the Baylor Club. That also, if you are a member, you can play at some really nice golf courses around the country. Tell them we sent you. 365 Sports.
I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. For details, go to GencoFCU.org.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
He is fantastic at what he does. He loves college football, CBS Sports. And remember, this year he became a TV star. And I got to go through like 4 layers now of people to get to Brandon Marcello. I'm kidding. Brandon, thank you for your time. Appreciate your time. What to you is the bigger story right now in college football? Chaos in the top 25 or the coaching carousel?
It's the coaching carousel by far. It's what people are reading the most that we've even noticed at CBS Sports. And, you know, a lot like recruiting, it's like you're selling hope to a fan base whenever you fire a head coach and start searching for a new one. Anything seems possible, especially in a coaching carousel as wild as this one's going to be, where there's going to be so many jobs and so many possibilities.
Brandon, the biggest, hammer to drop this week was on Billy Napier. And this is one that everybody saw coming. Now there's others we'll ask you about later on, but does Florida and do a lot of these big schools, do they operate under the belief that their job is still a lot better than the jobs that some of these coaches that have now that they're going after, when the reality is Curt Cignetti maybe kind of eternally popped that balloon for modern college football last week when he decided to stay at Indiana?
Yeah, both can be true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, Curt Cignetti is, he's been around for a while. He's advanced in age, and he knows that he can do something at Indiana that's never been done before. He's already proven that he can win anywhere he goes. And why, to him, why would you go to a Penn State or even a Florida and put so much more stress on yourself, where if you win 9 games or 10 games one year, they see you almost as a failure at a place like that. And Indiana is not going to be like that, at least not for the next several years. So there's that. And then also some coaches just get sick of moving around. Some are willing to do it a lot. Some just aren't. But there's going to be plenty of interest, obviously, in the jobs at Penn State and Florida, and both are still premier jobs. I would say Florida is the better job between the two right now. And at the end, Florida might end up actually being the better job that becomes open at this point. But, there's a lot of resources, a lot of support around at Florida. And they've got a roster that, quite honestly, is built to contend for a college football playoff spot next year, if you're able to keep it together. And then if you're able to get a coach in that's a big name and is also able to complement that roster with great additions from the transfer portal, all the more better. But Florida is a very enticing job for a lot of reasons.
Brandon, are there enough good coaches out there to fill 10-plus vacancies with potentially more on the way? Or are we just going to be a lot of guys swapping places here?
You'll see a couple swap places, I'm sure, but there will be some hires that probably make you go, whoa, I didn't really see that one coming. And not necessarily because it's a big name, but because maybe a school goes a little bit of a different direction than you're expecting. Because a lot of these schools that have already entered the market and are preparing for the ones that will enter the market. So they've got to be, they got to strategize, right? They can't just go, well, let's go after this guy because 8 other schools are going to go after them. But what really are your chances of getting that coach, this coach, that coach? And so some are going to have to come up with plans B through F and start looking at that and hammering away at what that might look like. So this is going to be a big opportunity, I think, potentially for a lot of assistant coaches and maybe some lower level coaches, even on the FCS level, to get bumped up, and not necessarily in one of the big jobs, but within the lower levels of the FBS and even the mid levels. And listen, in college football, it's proven, and we've seen it, that if you can win on one level and then another level, you can win anywhere. That's why guys like Lance Leipold at Kansas, Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, they have been successful everywhere they've been, and they bring that with them wherever they go, and they just win. Curt Cignetti is another. I think that people need to start realizing, and some have, obviously, because of those hires I just mentioned, that just because you're an FCS coach or a D2 coach doesn't mean you're not as good as some of the top dogs in the SEC or the Big Ten. Coaching is coaching. But in this day and age, I think coaching is less important than it was 5-10 years ago because of the NIL era. If you got a top 5 roster out there, it doesn't really take a lot of game day adjustments and coaching to beat up on the middle of the pack.
Brandon, I know that when a coach is fired and the boosters and donors will write checks, et cetera, or even perhaps that's part of when they get hired too, but how much we hear about programs and universities, et cetera, athletic departments needing more money. They're finding ways to scratch and claw for more money. How many hundreds of millions of dollars you think in the last 5 years or so or 10 years has been lost because of bad hires?
Well, I mean, there's no telling. But I do know that, among the coaches that have been fired already this season, it's added up to at least $114.1 million in buyout money. And that's just the head coaches. You also got to buy out assistant coach contracts, support staffers, and everything else. I mean, we're listen, this is a billions of dollars industry, and you're going to see a lot of changes this year. They're going to, we're going to get north of $200 million here probably by mid-November in buyouts. And it'll only keep climbing from there. But I wrote a story last week about the buyout bubble and whether it'll ever pop. And I talked to athletic directors, search firm executives, and agents, and they all agree that this is just crazy, the situation they got themselves into. But none of them really are willing to be the one that goes out on a limb and goes, we're just not going to give you a fully guaranteed contract, or we're not going to give you a 75% guaranteed contract. Because the market's the market. And if you don't do that, they're afraid you're going to lose the coach that you really want. And this is a different type of business because, the AD isn't just in a vacuum making a decision by himself. They got a board of trustees to answer to. They have a president to answer to. And emotions always overcome business sense in college athletics a lot of times. And if they zero in on a guy and they really want him and the agent's saying, well, we want this, more often than not, that school is going to give in and give them whatever they want.
I think the bigger issue is when they get to that second contract, Brandon. Look, Florida State is in a pickle with Mike Norvell right now financially. Now, we all know where it's probably headed with Mike Norvell, Hugh Freeze, Luke Fickell, those guys. Like it's down the road of they're probably not going to be there next year. But in Mike Norvell's case in particular, look, he leveraged a situation where he may not have even gotten the job at Alabama into this fantastic contract after a 19-game winning streak, and that's all fine. But they made emotional decisions, and now they're going to have to pay $50 million to a guy to go away.
Yeah, they're going to have about $58 million after this season if they fire him. And that's the situation, the business we're in. I mean, even consider this. I mean, Brent Venables at OU got a contract extension after being just mediocre or having a losing record or whatever, or 6-6, whatever that record was. And no one was calling to steal him away, but they gave him a contract extension. Credit the agents, man. They could sell a lot of stuff to these schools. They can go, hey, we're suffering in recruiting right now because they don't know if their coach is going to be around a year or two. But if you sign them to an extension and show them that, then they'll believe that coach is going to be around. There's a lot of ways to negotiate and get what you want as a coach.
Brandon, the off the field, a lot of times now is can be more interesting than the on the field, especially during the off season. But man, somehow the on the field has been able to match so far this season. I feel like all the off the field stuff. I know this is general, but there's just so much out there. So what has stood out to you for better or worse from what you've seen over these first 8-9 weeks in terms of maybe teams that aren't quite what you thought one way or the other, or just games or surprises? What's kind of been the story to you of this first half of the football season?
Yeah, it's complete parity. A colleague of mine, Chris Hummer, wrote a story about this on Friday about how if you look back, everybody kind of considers 2007 as the craziest year we've had, like really in the modern era here of college football. And this year's actually trumped that as far as just the amount of upsets and preseason top 10 teams that have fallen, average scores and things like that. And that was before this past week where we saw 5 undefeated teams lose, which was the most amount of teams that are undefeated to lose this late in the season since 2015. We also had 4 top 10 teams fall. This is the new era. The scores are a little bit tighter because NIL money and the transfer portals allow that talent to kind of get spread out. As far as just like individual teams that surprised me, I'd almost want to say Miami, but it doesn't because Mario Cristobal is like good for a game or two every year like that against Louisville where they lose out of nowhere. I'll say that Oregon is so much better than I thought they were going to be because they had to replace a lot of guys, especially offensively, and they look like a national championship contender even after that loss to Indiana. And Indiana as well. I mean, I thought they'd take a step back this year, and they've actually maybe taken a step forward after being in the playoff last season. They look better than they did last year. And to stay in the Big Ten, Ohio State, that defense is better than it was last year. And I thought it couldn't get much better, especially after they lost most of their starters. And it's a generational type defense, one of the better ones we've seen.
Brandon, when you look at just college football in general, I was thinking about this the other day, and I know the article that was written about maybe go to an NFL style with divisions and whatever else. How are fans, you think, going to accept that 9-3 in the regular season, which normally would be just unacceptable, might be pretty damn good?
It will take time. But at some point they will get used to it. It's like the Overton window. It's just going to slide over there slowly, and we'll get used to it. I also think it'll help that if this season, which is looking more and more likely of every week, we get a 9-3 team into the playoff, it'll kind of hit us, right? We almost got close to that happening last season with Alabama, South Carolina, and even for that matter, Illinois. That all had arguments to make the playoff as 3 losses. So it's just going to take some time. But once we see that first 3-loss team in the playoff, I think that'll start opening that door a little bit more.
Brandon, who are your Heisman favorites right now?
I really like Ty Simpson. Fernando Mendoza has been incredible. It's really turned into a quarterback trophy again. We had been trying to move away from that, it seemed, with receivers being in the running and winning it and others. But the best players out there so far that have been more consistent have been the quarterbacks. Ty Simpson's just been incredible. Ever since that week 1 loss, he has really bounced back, has led that team to some really great performances. And if Mendoza, if he keeps putting up great numbers and they keep winning, they go undefeated. And somehow win the Big Ten title against Ohio State. I don't know how Mendoza, you keep him out of New York and maybe give him the trophy.
Oh, one more question. I asked you about the coaches coming and going. When do ADs start to feel heat, like, for example, Cohen at Auburn? Because I believe he's hired, 2 already and about maybe 3 that he's going to have to fire. When does that start to take effect on their level?
Well, with Cohen at Auburn, he didn't hire Brian Harsin.
Okay.
That was the AD before him, and he got fired pretty much for making that decision to hire Brian Harsin. Cohen, I think, would be okay because later down the road, they're going to have a lot to judge on him. Whoever the next coach is at football, but also how Stephen Pearl works out as the head coach replacing Bruce Pearl. The one to watch, I think, is at Wisconsin. Chris McIntosh, former player there, who's now the AD. Releasing a kind of a vote of confidence statement today about Luke Fickell, saying, hey, we're going to pour more resources into the program. And though it might not be immediate, it'll be a long-term plan to help us financially and everything, which you could take one of 2 ways, right? You could say, well, that means Luke Fickell's going to stick around and he's asking fans and boosters to give more money, which is a no-win situation. Or he's saying out there, hey, if you show some commitment here, maybe I'll end up getting rid of Luke Fickell. But that's a situation to watch. I think every AD practically gets like a chance to hire like at least 2 or 3 coaches in their career in their main sports, being men's basketball and football, before they're really truly judged. And, some of these guys with the large buyouts, that'll really test that. But you also got to consider, like I wrote last week, a lot of these ADs aren't the ones fully responsible for these weird contracts or even some of the hires. It's the president and board of trustees falling in love with the guy and saying, hey, whatever it takes, go get him. And the AD is the one who has to stand in front of the room 3 years later when they fire him and answer for everything. And the board of trustees and the president are only at the press conference when the guy gets hired and everybody's celebrating.
Brandon, yeah, I would say Wisconsin, Michael Alford at FSU. And look, with Hugh Freeze, though, in particular, I saw you on your podcast with John and everybody earlier talking about like what Hugh Freeze was supposed to do and how that has not what's the difference between Brian Harson's short run and Hugh Freeze's run right now?
The one big difference is that Hugh Freeze recruited much better.
Yeah.
The talent level at Auburn is as such right now. You should be contending to be in the playoff. They've got a top 5 receiver room that they can't get the ball to. They have an offensive line that is just getting beat up week after week. And as my co-host Chris Hummer said on the podcast, schematically, offensively, coaches laugh at it. It's so predictable to them. It's easy to defend. And then you have a quarterback in Jackson Arnold who practically almost got Brent Venables fired last year at OU. And that's your answer. That's your guy to bring in to turn the program around. At the most important moments and decisions, Hugh Freeze has not been able to make the right ones. He's brought in 2 transfer quarterbacks over the last few years that have failed. Peyton Thorne from Michigan State and now Jackson Arnold from OU. He's been unable to develop talent that steps in from the high school level or even a second or third year guy out of the transfer portal that steps in for them at quarterback or at some of these other positions. And the offense just isn't there. It's a complete failure. And you hire an offensive coach as a head coach to at least make things entertaining offensively. And it's been the exact opposite. And your defense has actually been the strength of the team. But the one good thing he's done is the recruiting, which will set up the next coach potentially, if Hugh Freeze is fired, to be successful next year.
Brandon, good stuff, man. We love having you on. You do a great job. You know how we feel, and I know you like being on with us too. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great week.
All right, see you, David. See you.
Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports, and proud of him for what he does when he writes in the podcast and also his work now on sidelines with CBS Sports broadcast.
So it is kind of amazing to have a sport where the off field is as interesting as it is, especially right now, but yet still be as entertaining as it is on the field.
And it's not this time. It's not about TV and realignment, et cetera. It will be again. That's coming around the corner, but you're exactly right. This is interesting because it's football related.
Well, this is
not just conferences, et cetera.
Yeah, but I think of the NBA and how the regular season, it's great if you're a fan and you enjoy watching it, but there's really like the lowest amount of meaning behind it as there could possibly be at this point in time. I mean, and they almost acknowledge that, right? It's why they're having to goose up the All-Star game like every other year to try to make it interesting. Just like the action until playoff time's not really compelling and really going to draw you in all that much. Whereas I think with college football, I mean, from week 1 till now, it's been weekend after weekend of just insane upsets and insane games. And granted, you've got 100 games going on every weekend, but it's not always like this. Like there's definitely years where it's a lot more, I guess, quiet. It's a lot more predictable, and this has been anything but. And I think we are seeing some of the byproduct of now just NIL and what it's doing to the game for better and worse. I also think, just everybody sort of settling in on their new locations and maybe having a better idea of even from a year ago of sort of their place and things. But yeah, I'm glad that the on the field, because that's what drew me in and what always will keep me drawn in, is living up to its end of the bargain, because I would hate for this sport to become where it's just all coaching conversations and free agency and people just flipping roster spots all the time. That's all fun. It's great. It's incredible. It's excellent when it's the cherry on top of the sundae that is just great football and great action. And so I think we're living the best of both worlds right now. You got the busybody, juicy, fun off the field stuff that's all getting more interesting by the day. And then you've got this incredible race that we're only halfway through. And it's like, how could this be any better than it already is? So yeah, man, it's been a great season so far.
When we break down how to start Mondays, and sometimes I want to slam my head against the door and whatever, because it can be like, man, we got to make decisions. So Craig, Paul, and I, we get an email on Mondays. Craig tries to line it up. Paul and I kind of look at it and spit it out. We have a meeting at 12. And we started out with the football part of it because of some bangers. There are more bangers this week, and we'll get to those too. But the coaching carousel has never been this explosive ever. in the middle of the year, early in the year. But we'll get back to that next and show you the jobs that are open, some of the reactions, some of the statements, and the belief in their head coach that you see sometimes when you get that vote of confidence. That can be a damning thing.
Paul's happy right now. Paul loves Mike Norvell, and he'll have nothing to say when we get back other than go Noles. And Smokey, absolutely nothing to worry about with the head coach at Nebraska. Not to mention, we're going to wait till this next segment, but not to mention all this talk last week, only for me to say, what was it, Friday afternoon, of like, wouldn't it be kind of crazy if like tonight, all this talk in Nebraska, da-di-da-di-da. So we'll get to that. And you know what? The head coach of the team that I root for, he's the finest of all of them, but he's not exactly safe in the big picture either.
He's not rolling in cash, or he's not rolling in confidence with that program either.
I honestly feel like I could have started to put together a list for next year's coaching carousel. Honestly, you can start like the jobs that haven't already opened up yet, but the ones that are starting to get a little bit testy. I feel like he's on that list for like next year. But let's get into what's going on right now.
If they slide, lose 3 of 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
When we come back, the coaching job's open. How some of the universities and ADs responded to it. What does it mean? Thank you. I asked the question in the chat room. Who's next? Whose neck goes next when it comes to that? Is it Fickle? Is it Norvell? Is it who? Will freeze? That and more. We appreciate your time. And this is 365 Sports. Brandon, what are Alan Samuels? Is that right? Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. And they are towards the last third of the month of October. And thanks to David Gray, sales manager, and Ted Teague, general manager and CEO, I've got some goodies for you. The legendary Hemi V8 roars again. The all-new Ram 1500, now in stock at Alan Samuels, built for Texas power, loaded with muscle and ready for immediate delivery. No waiting, no nonsense, on the lot right now at their location in Waco. Also, the 0% APR for 60 months on the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee L. That is a fantastic SUV. 5 years interest-free driving, and Jeep built for family freedom road ahead. That is available. There is also $15,000, up to $15,000 off 3.9% financing, 72 months on the brand new 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie, or just lock it in for 0% financing for 72 months. Those are just some of what they have: specials, discounts, and incentives. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Over 30% of adults struggle with chronic foot and joint pain, and many face mobility limitations as they age. But a revolutionary Comfort First slipper has taken the wellness world by storm. Try Cloud Slides and feel you are walking on the clouds. Cloud Slides.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code SPORTS365 to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code SPORTS365. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 and up. 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid.
in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, we just spent time with a great friend of the show and a hell of a reporter and journalist in Brandon Marcello. Here is Brett McMurphy, another friend of what we do. Here are the names of the teams who are looking for a coach now. Some earlier, some over the weekend. Colorado State, Norvell opened up. Paul thinks the wrong Norvell. Florida yesterday opened up. And then look at the other ones. It seemed like forever ago. Those are the 11 openings in the FBS. Kent State, of course, has been a disaster. Oregon State a week ago, on and on and on. Stanford's been a while. Andrew Luck running that program with Frank Reich, the head coach. What a win they had against FSU. But look at that list, and it's October the 20th, everyone. That is stunning.
I actually watched a good bit of that Stanford win the other night. And
I watched all the bits of it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But I watched that. He was all over the place, man. I mean, he was up and down those sidelines. Like, you would have thought he was the coach, save for the fact that he wasn't, like, calling plays in and didn't have a headset on. Yeah, he was all over the place. Yeah. And working those sidelines and working those kids and players and trying to get them to close this thing on out. And so he eventually got it done. But, yeah, 9 openings this season because of 2 of them already having been decided, as it points out there with Kent State and Stanford prior to the start of the year. But 9 jobs in, what are we, week 9, right? Mm-hmm. So a job a week, basically.
I think it's 11. Is it 11 now?
Well, I just said that 2 of them were before the season.
Oh, yeah.
So we've had 9 during the season was what I was saying. But, averaging a job a week now at this point and pretty much all over the map. I mean, ACC, yep. Big 12, yep. Big 10, yep. SEC, yep. You could go down the list and pretty much everybody's accounted for, and we've got more to come. I mean, that's the thing. It's just a question of who's next. And so, I mean, I guess let's start with Napier here because that's the latest.
Let's go to that one. Scott Strickland, and we're not going to read the entire statement because it's lengthy, but bottom line, the standards and expectations for Gators football are to win championships, not simply to compete. We exist to win. We will not settle for less. The averages, by the way, since Urban Meyer, say whatever you want the way he left the program, we know what he did there. Muschamp, McIlvain, Mullen, who's winning at UNLV, and now Napier have all struggled. Now Mullen was actually pretty good, but he's out. Napier's gone.
Mullen lost his groove recruiting. It changed in a hurry, and I think that he had a moment where he's like, I don't want to do this.
Okay, did Napier deserve to get fired?
Yes.
Was this a disastrous hire? Because I didn't hear everybody say that when they hired him.
I don't think it was a disastrous hire, but
he was a wanted guy when they hired him.
Yes, he was. He was at University of Louisiana, and he was doing well. He was kind of a fiery guy and a recruiter.
But yeah, I made this. I'm very mean, but I also made this though. Look, I also made this. Just my guy's in there too at the support group meeting.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. So
Paul's having fun with AI.
Yeah, no, it's the only thing it's good for, in my opinion. But Billy Napier did not coach well enough. He sometimes you do almost everything right. Now, they had the big Jaden Rashada, just cluster screw at the beginning of this thing. And I don't blame Billy Napier for that at all, because people with money told him, like, no, we got it. And that all happened. And we've seen what happened with Jaden Rashada since. But he did maintain DJ Lagway. They have a very good roster. The problem with Florida is that Billy Napier, as a program CEO and as a coach, in games makes absolutely terrible decisions, and they lose. And they have a ton of penalties. Their offense, with all the talent they have, it does not hum at all. It kind of sputters and then speeds up for a minute. You think, oh, the car's running, and then it crashes again. So that's why he's out. He's not out for any other reason than he's just not good on game day. Bottom line.
5-12 against ranked teams, which is really not that bad. But yeah, they're in a free fall. Craig?
Yeah, there was a list of stats that were put together that easily explained Billy Napier's firing. How about 22-23 overall?
Mm-hmm.
How about 0-14 against ranked opponents, road or neutral site? How about worst mark, that 22-23 in 4 seasons for a Florida coach in over 75 years? How about I mentioned the 0-14 mark. 3-12 against annual rivals FSU, Georgia, LSU, Miami, and Tennessee. So he wasn't doing anything, like losing the big rivalry games, losing the big ranked games, losing games in general as much as you were winning games. You had the Rashada thing that you can throw onto that. Not to mention whatever other little tentacles of the day-to-day there that people also weren't happy with, that you care more about if you're in Gainesville or based, on what's happening in Gainesville. So, yeah, there was just a lot not going right, but it wasn't a bad hire. He was a guy that a lot of people wanted back when he was hired. I remember Mack Rhodes was wanting to kick the tires on him. He had no interest, though, because he had Florida on the other line. But, I think it just wasn't the right fit. And I don't know about he just needs to – I don't know where he needs to be. I still think he's a good football coach that can help somebody, but he just wasn't the right guy for Florida football at this point in time. And that's just what happens. And not everybody aces their hires. And this was a case where, yes, Scott Strickland swung it and struck out big time. And so they're in a pickle because they are on a run now of not very good. And they're a team that expects to be not just very good, but elite. And they haven't been elite for a very long time now.
Well, I mentioned the 4 coaches now. They're on their 4th coach. And Meyer, there was time for him to go, but what he did there was fantastic. What?
It's their 5th. Napier's the 5th.
Oh, I thought I had him as Muschamp, McElwain, Mullen, and Napier.
Oh, okay. I thought, yeah.
So, okay, now here's another one. And then we didn't move on to some other ones, but this is a big one. So there's somebody out there that's going to replace him, which might open up another job. Well, and then the domino effect begins.
Well, that's what we didn't get to with Brandon Marcel, but that's what I'm fascinated to see, because I did ask him that question, and I said it somewhat tongue-in-cheek of where are all these coaches going to come from? We're talking about 11 jobs that have to be filled, and maybe Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss for Florida or something, but then Ole Miss needs a head coach. So that's what, I'm very interested to see, where do these candidates come from to fill this many jobs? Now, Kent State obviously doesn't need to hire an NFL head coach or somebody who's going to blow everybody away. Some of these guys, you're just going to hire an OC from somewhere that's pretty good and just the next in line who was coaching under the Saban tree at one point or something like that. But I'm just as fascinated seeing these jobs open up as I'm see how they get filled and what that domino effect looks like. And Florida will be a massive domino, because they could very well take some coordinator, or they could leave Ole Miss looking for a head coach or somebody of that caliber. Depending on what direction they go. And they're not the only job like that, obviously. Penn State's a job like that as well, where they could pretty much, go and get, nobody almost is off limits to them other than people who are just, Kirby Smart's not going to take the job, obviously. But beyond guys like that, they're big enough schools to pretty much talk to whoever they want to. So, I'm fascinated to see which direction Florida goes now. And is there a favorite? Is there...
I think they would, you hear about Lane Kiffin.
That seems to be the guy and that they would love.
I'm not so sure Ole Miss doesn't spend more money now on football, et cetera, than Florida. But Florida's their dog. They're a dog. And he's got a good football team.
Yeah. Look, they would kill, James Franklin, 9-3, 10-2 every year they haven't had that since Urban Meyer. You know, they had a good year under Mullen, and then they had the bad year and got rid of him since the LS shoe incident. But after that, Mullen's tenure changed, and you know, Mullen now re-energized, and probably they're regretting letting him go. But at the time, it seemed like the right decision to make. They also, and this is was to the detriment of Jim McElwain and Will Muschamp before, and Dan Mullen. Florida let themselves fall behind on facilities when Alabama and LSU and all these teams are building these big facilities. Florida wasn't doing that. And
well, you know what?
They've caught up.
Yeah,
but
some of the bigger schools like Texas got behind on some facilities, had to play catch up too. It happens.
But in the SEC, that seems to be an even a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Because when you have a kid at Gainesville and then he goes to Tuscaloosa or Athens and he's like, oh, I've got a PlayStation in my locker here. And Florida's like, hey, all the Gatorade you can drink. We invented it here. It's like, yeah, but I get that there too.
Florida State is going to have to make decisions. In fact, the statement, anytime you get the statement, this is from their AD, Michael Alford. You can read most of it, but FSU benefits from unmatched passionate support for the entire family. Community commitment to football, etc., is unwavering. They're saying that they're going to watch how this season finishes out, basically, if you want to put it all in some sort of parentheses.
Yeah, so this not a firing like some people were hoping for and expecting come today, but instead a TBD, instead of a ... at the end of that message is what it feels like. Very much unfinished how this ends, but now the question is, when does it end? And again, many thought that it might after the loss to Stanford. So, Paul, let's start off with Friday night. Let's go back to that because this is what really leads
Saturday
into
night.
Or Saturday night, excuse me. Let's go back to Saturday night, late Saturday night. I wrote this down. I have to do this because I'm thinking about it, and I was thinking about Paul when I was doing it, and I was sitting there. Damn it! I probably have looked through too many things now to find it. But I was time stamping. It's like 1:12 a.m. Florida State still has a chance. 1:14. It's down. It was like 1:17. And all I have to ask you is, how did you feel watching FSU football on the West Coast at 1 something in the morning on Saturday?
You're getting too old for that.
Okay,
First of all,
I'm too old. I'm 45. It's hard. It's hard to do, but I did it. I raged watched it. Two, I didn't realize that the games are so late. Like those West Coast games, that they don't put an officiating expert on them.
Oh yeah,
there's no.
Those guys are
asleep.
They've been asleep for hours.
Hey, can you do Florida State Stanford? They're like, no, I gotta sleep.
Yeah, here it was. Exactly 1 a.m. Central. Kevin Sperry, because he's now in the game.
Yeah.
His fourth down pass falls to the ground amidst quadruple coverage. Seminoles get another shot. 1:12 pass interference call gives them one last hope with 2 seconds remaining after a botched snap. 1:13, one untimed down from the 2-yard line.
Which I think they got in, but they didn't have the camera.
But timeout Stanford.
Yeah.
1:14, Stanford gets a stop, or do they? We now need to replay. 1:15, we're in replay. 1:18, rulings upheld. Stanford wins 20-13. Yeah. It's like 1:18 a.m. on Saturday night.
Yeah, they couldn't get the angle. And again, at that point, I've never been less mad about a call that didn't go FSU's way. I'm like, all right, whatever. The fact that you can beat Alabama and lose to Stanford is befuddling. It's befuddling. And to lose 4 games in a row after a 3-0 start, even though 2 of them were against cupcakes, the way that you were rolling along looked good. And then the Virginia game seems to have popped the bubble and exposed a lot of things. Okay, here are some numbers on Mike Norvell. And look, they decided not to fire him this week, and that's their decision. But we all know where it's headed. And Michael Alford kind of put his neck on the line for this right now because of the way this is. It's like, we're going to assess it at the end of the season. Well, here, you don't need to the end of the season. 36-31 overall career record. 5-15 in his last 20 games. Obviously 2-10 last year. 20-23 in the ACC. 8 straight conference losses. 5-14 in his last 19 games against P4 opponents. And they, since Daryl Mudra was the coach, he was the last coach, not even Willie Taggart in Florida State history, to have a 4-game losing streak. Jeez. Bobby Bowden never had a 4-game losing streak. Jimbo Fisher never had a 4-game losing streak. Willie Taggart didn't even have a 4-game losing streak, and he was not the coach they needed. He was not a good coach. He was there for 2 years. Mike Norvell has had 4 4-game losing streaks since 2020. That just, you can't keep doing that. It's too much of an up and down. I like Mike Norvell. I think he's a good coach. I just think that he's not the right coach there, and he's clearly lost the locker room. Brandon put up the respond tweet in that there are sources saying that after the game, people are, joking around how he says respond.
Yeah, players were jacking around because they felt like
respond, which to me sounds like Mike Norvell doing it for himself. And let me just say, I'm going to say this to the top down on Florida State. Look, you got screwed in 2023. Every decision you've made from that point has been the wrong one. Every single one. You went maybe it wasn't wrong to kind of see if you could make the conference thing better, or maybe, shoot your shot. But you should not have done it in the fashion that you did it. You were very braggadocious. And then in the time since then about hey, we're Florida State, we're big and bad. Guess what you've done? Every time you're by yourself on national television, you pretty much crap the bed except for one time against Alabama. And all this keeps going on. You have all this bravado. Heck, against Stanford, you know who the loudest team against Stanford and Cal joining the conference was?
Yep.
Florida State, because they said they would dilute the strength of schedule. Now, I don't like that they're in the conference, but that's just because I don't really care about Cal and Stanford playing teams on the Atlantic coast. But they had to be somewhere. They're in there, so you got to make the best of it. And here you've got a team that's pretty much throwing darts all over the league and losing and not being anywhere close to where they should be able to swing it around. It is very much karma.
Yeah.
And that starts with the president, the athletic director, Michael Alford, who's very outspoken, and Mike Norvell, who is kind of captain coach speak all the time.
Well, they made their own bed. Now they're laying in it, and it's dirty. And they had every right to be just lost sleep over the 13-0 team, Jordan Travis and all that. But this is a nightmare.
I'll throw three more stats in there. Three more. Only 2 high school recruits drafted since the beginning of his tenure. Most of the draft picks were all transfers, which they developed transfers well. Lost to an FCS program, which hadn't happened in a very long time, and 0 top 10 recruiting classes.
And Stanford was 24-43 their last games leading up to since their last winning season. Yeah, it was a nightmare. I know Paul has a potty mouth on the text messages, but so they're now trying to figure out what they're doing, and that's not even a part of the 11 programs looking for a head coach.
Yeah, so there will be a 12th or there will be a first, as far as starting the list for next year, but Florida State will be on either this year's list or next year's list, barring something completely unforeseen. So yeah, that's a major job, and especially with what could be awaiting them when these TV contracts start to get renegotiated here in the next 5 years. How does that add to the Florida State dynamic? Who takes that job, where they're playing, just the whole big picture thing. There's a lot of big decisions coming their way here in the next couple of years. So that's definitely one that's interesting to watch. And meanwhile, there's
breaking news. Norvell has been fired. Jay Norvell, Colorado State.
No relation.
Who, he was so close to beating Dion in Colorado. That first year, that emotional game. No relation. You can tell. Jay Norvell, 2-5 start. Colorado State's always a team that was, at times they were kind of not bad, but he's gone.
Yeah, I enjoyed him when he was an assistant there for a good long while with Oklahoma. I had some good receivers and whatnot, but they're just not progressing and not winning enough. And Colorado State feels like it's time to make a change. They're getting ready to go into the Pac-12, obviously, right, as that starts to get underway. So nice timing to kind of refresh things as well. But 18-26 over 4 years. Did have a pretty good year last year at 8-5, but there was progress according to their AD, but they had started slow this year. And so with the move to the Pac-12 and just kind of needing to kind of go a certain direction, they're deciding to go a brand new direction, which I can totally understand that. And so I like Jay Norvell. Good luck to him. But yes, that's another job that now opens up, and you wonder what trickles over that way. So that's part of the 11. One job not part of the 11, we'll go ahead and talk about it, but it still could be. It might not be. It might actually Phil, one of the other jobs, or at least that was the thought process at the end of last week, was Penn State opened up. Mm-hmm. Who's the name that we heard all of last week when it came to Penn State?
Matt Rule.
Matt Rule, Nebraska.
I said Matt Campbell.
You said Matt Campbell. I said Matt Campbell in regards to replacing Matt Rule at Nebraska.
Yeah, you did.
Which maybe Nebraska fans, after hoping to hold on to Rule last week, are now hoping for.
Wow.
Because just as we all suspected, we jinxed the Cornhuskers. Not that they need much help in that regard, but after all of our talk about Matt Rule and Penn State and Nebraska and this and that, they turn around on Friday night and lose at Minnesota 24-6. And that puts them now at 5-2 right there. Well, I guess technically behind Minnesota if there's a tiebreaker.
Well, that's where they belong. They need to look at Minnesota's ass for the rest of the year. They have for now a decade.
But, how are you feeling Friday night as Nebraska?
Not surprised. I'm not surprised. If we could go back and find a clip, because we have clips, I expected, I didn't know it would be 24-6. I just knew, and I know the program. And Rule, no matter what, it was a distraction. Did he handle it well? Only he really knows in his heart. But I do know this. I had some writers who covered Nebraska text me about how that week in New Orleans went when he was at Baylor and they played a really good Georgia. Not quite Georgia national championship, but when they were on the cusp of being that way. And damn it, it was a distraction for Baylor. And he had admitted that the day he was hired on an interview I did with him. Listen, Nebraska's an average program. They may win another game. Might win one more game. And I don't know who that's going to be against. With UCLA? I doubt it.
What? UCLA's got freaking Big Noon kickoff attached to them
exactly
this week.
right.
I mean, mostly because of Indiana, but still.
Is it going to be USC? No. Is it going to be Iowa? They always lose to Iowa. So
they could beat Penn State now.
It's not going to be Penn State. No, Penn State, but
they lost again.
It's just so Nebraska. 5-1, 5-0, 6-0, whatever it is, and then they just absolutely slide into a pit of crap. And that's what they're about to do. You could see it. They sucked on Friday, and I'm not talking about talent-wise. They don't have enough of that either. They played like a team that was not prepared. They played like a team that maybe was distracted. Minnesota beat their ass up. They have now beaten Nebraska. What is it? What did I say? 9 of 12 years? Minnesota? 6 in a row. I'm done. I'm not going to ever, the rest of the year, I will not plan anything I do on the weekend, whether it's a tea time or anything else, based on when they play their games.
I think they'll likely go 3-2 on the way out, just because I do think that they are a good enough team to bounce back. But
let's say they can go.
They can go. I think they can go 3-2 on the way out. And that some of these things like Northwestern, UCLA, I think those will kind of come back down to earth a little bit as well. But they can't mess around because they've got teams playing with no fear now, like UCLA and Northwestern, who are just, gripping it and ripping it. But if you're a Nebraska fan who doesn't want to lose your coach, this was a positive scenario, because now Penn State can't go, well, we're going to hire Matt Rule.
Why would you hire him?
Exactly. And you know what? 4D science, Rule lost on purpose to get the mojo back to where no.
They want to fired a guy that was 100 and whatever and 43, but couldn't beat a top 5 or 10 ranked team.
No, Rule heard us talking about how he didn't go all out like Kurt Cignetti did.
Yeah.
Like he said on Pat McAfee, like, oh no, Nebraska's a great job, whatever. Kurt Cignetti said, let me show you how it's done, pal. Let me show you how you turn down coaching rumors. You sit at your desk in your office with a new contract and you sign that SOB.
It live on TV.
TV and say, I plan on retiring here. But Matt Rule decided, you're right, I've got to take it further. I'm going to go lose to intentionally take myself out of the job for Penn State. That's how dedicated he is to Nebraska, that he went and lost to take himself out of the coaching circle.
His name does not need to be mentioned again with Penn State. I don't give a damn about the lineage. And I like Matt, but this last week pissed me off. And I think it really, really, I'm not saying they would have beaten Minnesota had it not been there, but that looked like a team that was absolutely just unemotional, and Minnesota beat them badly.
I think Matt should wait a couple weeks and do the same thing that Kurt did, and do that, and then I'll write for him like, here's what you say. You will take me out of Lincoln, Nebraska in a bleeping box.
Okay.
Right.
No, but
know?
you can't believe that.
Yeah.
And why would you give him a freaking extension? Let's let him earn what he has right now. For God's sake.
We were talking to Brandon earlier, and he's talking about these guys getting extensions just for having good years, and it really does make you realize how ridiculous some of these coaching extensions are, and how much more often than not you put yourself in a huge hole 2 and 3 years later, as opposed to what you were hoping you were going to be doing 2 and 3 years later, because you overreact. Like, Oklahoma signing Venables. Like, I know they took some money away last offseason and all that, but they were far too quick to do that initially in my book. And most jobs are. I mean, they just have this craving, I guess, for just adding more excitement on more excitement. And so a coach is doing well, we better sign him to a long-term deal. And I think that this is the time we also realize how many regrets you have when you talk about some of these coaching contracts.
And one coaching job, he signs an extension. A guy we had on the show a couple of weeks ago, we got to get to a break for Phil Bennett, is Eric Morris. They have extended Eric Morris. His name was a hot commodity too. Again, it's like anything else. They do this. Does that mean anything? Eric Morris, good for him, gets a payout now set to make $1.4 million for 2025.
Well, good for him and good for them for waiting a week, not after that South Florida game. That would have been an absolutely awful time to announce this.
It would have been.
Because that was a bad loss, but rebound and then get your coaching extension put out there publicly. Good for Eric Morris. We're fans of his and think he's definitely on his way up. But, good to see somebody's getting rewarded for what they're doing. Him and Cignetti, I guess, the last few days, even though the firings are what's taking all the attention.
So Florida State releases a statement. Wisconsin released a statement on Luke Fickell. That's another one that's that barn is burning too. And that's just from over the weekend, plus those who were fired, Napier and Jay Norvell. Phil Bennett will join us next on his thoughts about where we are when it comes to coaching changes. What does it do to a program from the inside out? His thoughts, he's been a part of that in many ways because it's part of a career of a head coach or an assistant coach. This is 365 Sports. Ideal, MRI.com. And man, Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff, his partners, what a great business. I've been inside their state-of-the-art imaging machine 4 different times. Twice for my back, one time for my lower back, which has gotten all that stuff kind of just from age and wear and tear. Once for my cervical, my upper back, just because I wanted to make sure it wasn't creating other issues. Had a stinging, like burning sensation in my left shoulder blade. And I've also had one as well on my right shoulder from back in the day when they first opened up, when I had rotator cuff surgery in 2015. And my abdomen, make sure everything in there was where it was supposed to be with nothing extra that was littered inside of it. And so that's what they do, and for $497. Ideal MRI with a state-of-the-art imaging machine. When you get a call, your doctor wants a better look, you have him call Ideal MRI. It won't take long to get an appointment, and it won't take long when you're there to have to wait around. They are as efficient as Chick-fil-A when it comes to MRIs. IdealMRI.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Have you heard of the new IRA? The new IRA Insurance Retirement Advantage is the solution for high-income individuals and business owners who want to grow and protect their wealth without locking up capital or taking unnecessary risks. The new IRA Insurance Retirement Advantage is an option you need to know more about and is only available exclusively from North Star Funding Partners at northstarfundingpartners.com.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
This is Richard Carr, and it's hard to believe, but 2025 marks our 26th year in the car business. I want to thank you for your support over the last 26 years. As a locally owned business, our customers in Central Texas community are also friends and neighbors. If you haven't been by lately, I invite you to come in and experience our amazing lineup of Buick, GMC, and Cadillac vehicles. Our goal is to make you feel like more than just a customer, but as a valued neighbor. Let us show you why we are people you can count on at Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Tomorrow, we will dive into the AP Top 25. Yes, it's been released, and yes, there were some changes. 9 of the 10 spots from 2 to 10 changed over the weekend because of all hell breaking loose. Hey, Garrett and Brandon, do you have a picture of that little white golf ball? Waiting on Phil Bennett to join us. So on Saturday, not that the whole world didn't learn about it because I made sure they did, that is the golf ball. That's my Ford Explorer that I'm driving. 10-18-25, number 5, 185-yard uphill par 3, and I freaking aced it, and that's the ball.
How many?
2. That's my second one. The other one was at Holly Tree Country Club, number 6, a par 3 that was 153.
How long ago?
That was in 2026, I think it was.
And that's in the future.
2006, I'm sorry.
Okay.
This right here was my second, and I have not seen either one of them go in because they're both elevated, and we walked up on the green. Bill Olson was a part of the group. Appreciated him too. And also, God, I forgot the other person. That's terrible. But 185 yards uphill. That's it. That's the ball. I have bought like a little thing. You put the ball in the scorecard. That should arrive sometime later this week.
Well, that's
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Very happy for you.
I'm excited. I did tell Phil Bennett. I told everybody that's in this room, and then maybe about a handful of other people too. We're now joined by longtime college football veteran coach and Phil Bennett. I even told Phil, and he joins us now on 365 Sports. Have you had one before, Coach?
You know, I have. I had a 211 par 3.
Good Lord. Do you realize the odds of that are almost like no matter the wind, the weather, the green, the hit, whatever. All right. Phil, there are 11 FBS coaching jobs open. 11. It's October 20th. Why?
Well, I think we all know. There's more money being spent. Players are being paid. And, you know, the sense of urgency to win and be relative has been ramped up probably times of 100 over the last 10 years. Yeah, you know, and the money's there. So they're going to spend it.
Phil, if you were Pat Kraft, would you have fired a coach who goes 10-2 every year? Or it was that maybe a little bit too rash because of a 3-game losing streak?
Paul, I truly believe that right now, and I don't know Pat Kraft. I've heard he's a good guy, but ADs are becoming too much like the fans, and they listen to the fans. And, you know, when people are in charge of multi-million-dollar athletic departments and, you know, they're getting these now the multimedia, the between X and shows like this, you know, everybody's got an opinion. And they get just absolutely worn out with the negativity of what's going on. Now, this is a guy that was one drive, 2-minute offense away from playing for the national championship. And it's beyond me how they can fire him. You know, now, maybe there were some underlying things and maybe the things they didn't like, but nothing that they could fire him with cause. So, you know, I think it's just a sign of the time. But let's rest assured, you know, James Franklin's going to be fine. He's got $50 million. So it's not like he's going to be, you know, he's not going to be on food stamps.
No, he is not. He's not going to be asking for change on the corner or anything like that. That's for sure. Could you see a scenario where he just slides into Gainesville here pretty soon or somewhere? I mean, he's going to get another job rather quickly. I would think he's got to be like the top of the totem pole of the availabilities out there. Because here's the thing, Coach, 11 openings, they got to find 11 coaches from somewhere, and there's not like a cavalcade of just young guys that are on the assembly line all ready to go fill out all of these jobs.
You know, I think I told Smokey this. I've had like 3 different search firms whom I'm familiar with have called me and started asking me about guys. And I think what you're going to see, Craig, is this. I think James Franklin will end with a job, but I do believe this. There's fits. I don't think James would be a fit, just like I don't think Brian Kelly's a fit at LSU. I don't think James would be a fit there. I think LSU and Florida and those jobs sort of need guys, you know, that have sort of know what they're getting into. I didn't feel like Billy was either, so it sort of panned out that way. You know, I can see, you know, the Lane Kiffin train going to Gainesville. I think that would be something, be much like the old days of when Spurrier was there. But I think what you're going to see, and a guy told me this today, he said, you're going to see a lot of young coaches get opportunities because it's going to be a fallout from not just 11 jobs. There's going to be 30 or 40 different jobs because of the volume of everybody moving. So it's really going to be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, you have the merry-go-round of the way. All right, so as a guy who's been a head coach, you've been a coordinator, you've been an assistant coach, all the way to when you got out of college as a GA. When a coach is fired, the head coach is fired, what are the contracts usually like for everybody else on staff, and is there a buyout for all of them too?
When I first started, the big thing, and Charlie McClendon, what was, you know, back in the day of the AFCA football, everybody, and Grant Taft did this. He tried to get ADs to make June to June contracts. And what that did, Smokey, that gave you 4 or 5 months of a cushion if you were fired. Now, as it's progressed, a lot of coaches have gotten, you know, multi-year contracts. I mean, not just coordinators, but position coaches. So you're talking about a lot of money. I know this, at LSU, I think this is correct. If Brian Kelly was fired, of course, they're going to have to pay him $50 million, but I believe his defensive coordinator has a 3-year contract at $2.2 million a year. So, and I think every coach on the staff has a multi-year contract. So I think it varies at the school and really how you've been doing.
Phil, you got out at the wrong time, my friend.
You know what though, Paul? I don't think I would have the patience anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, like I said, you got too many ADs that have become fans, and if you have a bad game, if you have a scenario what's happened to James Franklin, I mean, it just shatters right before your eyes.
What did you think about Texas and Kentucky this week? I've been wondering about this since that game went down. Look, Texas's defense is not going to change. They're really good, but their offensive line isn't good. I saw some of their PFF grades. One of them graded out at a 14. He just got mauled. And Kentucky just doesn't have as much talent. Texas was able, I think, to get by on the fact that right at the end of the game when they needed it in overtime, they had enough athletes to do that. But this is not what Sark thought he was bringing to the table this year.
I think it starts with the quarterback. We have to be honest. At this point right now, Arch has not shown anything to let any of us know that he's going to be the guy. I think Texas is reevaluating that position, number one. I know they've had some injuries on the offensive line. They've had injuries at running back. They're absolutely, you're right, they're still good on defense. But on offense, they're not they're a shell of what they were last year. And I get a kick out of it, and you guys remember this. The quarterback that's with the Dolphins, everybody said, Art should have been playing. Art should have been, we're finding out that there's a reason why he was playing most of the time.
Quinn Ewers, yeah.
Quinn Ewers.
Yep.
And, Coach, that actually leads me right into this. Texas Tech on Saturday, the big game at Arizona State. All the talk is, will Sam Leavitt play for the SunDevils? And then we find out Baron Morton's not playing for Tech, but a lot of people thought that his backup should have been starting anyways. And I said at the start of the show, I said, I think October 18th is going to be Baron Morton Appreciation Day because everybody learned how much they actually do need him and how much he matters. And just what were your thoughts? I mean, another special cooked up by Kenny Dillingham and company, but your thoughts on just kind of the ramifications and the way that played out?
I'm really good friends with the defensive coordinator at Arizona State. And I'm telling you, they were motivated after the Utah fiasco, and that they were motivated. And I thought Brian Ward did a great job defensively in defending this quarterback. And I think the kid's good. But I think that you look at the game, Arizona State was coming. I mean, they had been stung. They were mad, got their quarterback back, their receiver and quarterback. And my wife and I were watching the game. We have our daughter and son-in-law went to Tech, and they're avid. And they said, all right, we just won the game. And my wife looked at me and said, they might have scored too fast. And they sure did. And you just saw it wasn't that Tech didn't do good things on that drive defensively. They just executed. I mean, Tyson and Leavitt, I mean, they were a hard combination to stop. And it was a big win for ASU.
Phil, you were always usually coaching somewhere, but did you ever or have you ever experienced Utah BYU?
I played at both places. And,
okay.
But I've never I know that both coaches are close. And I think that, it's a rivalry. I would put it in the comparison of A&M and Texas, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. It's a fierce rivalry.
Well, it's interesting because Kalani Sitake, there's still a lot of work to be done. And that was, like I said, you feel sore the day after if you just watched that game.
Oh.
What are your thoughts about Cincinnati and what Scott Satterfield's done with that team?
I really like their offensive, what they're doing. I think they're still suspect defensively. I say that, and I know I have a couple of guys that are friends of mine coaching there, and they're work in progress, and they feel like they're getting better, which they are. They very easily could have lost to Kansas at KU. It was a shootout. But, yeah, I think they've done a great job. And I think you look at the SEC and the Big 12, it's going to come down to the wire because everybody, throw Colorado in there, throw Kansas State, they threw a wrench in it when they beat TCU. I mean, it's sort of a round robin, and you might have two losses on both the SEC and the Big 12 and go to the championship game.
Phil, your Texas A&M Aggies. Look, that was a weird one in Fayetteville the other night. They never, and this is what makes you kind of a good team that overcomes these things. I never really felt that game was in question, even though Arkansas kept kind of jumping back in. And if Talon Green ever gets some consistent coaching that he knows he's going to have a guy for a couple years, he's a weapon already, but man, the sky's the limit for his talent. He kind of single-handedly kept befuddling a really good A&M defense.
Paul, the last game that I coached at North Texas, we played Boise, and Caleb was the quarterback, and we led them at halftime, and it was a game down to the wire, and he was the difference. He ran. Dirk Cotter was calling the plays. And he told me after the game, he said, Phil, Dirk had been the head coach at Boise, been the head coach at Arizona State. He said, that kid could have started anywhere I've ever been. And he was, he put on a show. And Mike Elko said after the game, he was angry. But I had told Colin Klein last week, I said, y'all are going to have to score because this quarterback, if he's on, is a problem. And I think Petrino's doing good things with him. But back to the Aggies, I'm just telling you right now, offensively, Colin is their run, their pass game is dangerous. The receivers they brought in, Concepcion and the kid from
Craver
State.
Yeah, Craver.
Are outstanding. And Reuben Owens, the running back from El Campo, they didn't have their starter. He showed up. E.J. Smith came in and gave good effort and good plays. I'm just telling you now that if I'm a betting man, I think they can go to Baton Rouge and win.
Phil, I will ask you one more question, and I'm done. And we appreciate you as always. You look like you're doing well. The brace is off. That's great news, too.
I'm doing better. I'm starting to get a rebound.
Baylor loses at TCU. You've been a part of that. TCU used to beat Baylor when they you howl, but they do. But played very erratic. Defense was terrible. TCU ran the ball. They hadn't been running the ball. Ended up looking like it was closer than it was. How in the hell do you have a head coach as a defensive coordinator, and it seems like nothing has gotten better? Is it a scheme issue? Is it a talent issue? Or is it both?
The first thing I look at when I watch a game is how people line up. And I've told you this before. I don't like the way Baylor defends formations. It's all about numbers and angles. Now, I will say this. The long touchdown run that ended up being the difference in the game, the safety was unblocked. And if you look at that play, I saw it as soon as it happened. They were trying to crack him. He took his eyes off the runner and went straight to the blocker. He took himself out of the play. So that was a nice play. I think Randy Clements did a good job of helping him scheme some runs. I think it's a combination of what they're doing, and I don't see it as I think they play hard. I just don't like the way they line up.
All right, I thought you handled it pretty well. They lose to Cincinnati, you would think. They could get drilled with that run game.
Yes.
And then they come back to UCF homecoming weekend, they might have half that stadium empty. The way there's apathy right now going on. And that's a bad deal.
I'm going to say, when we played in the rain at TCU back in I guess 15, that stadium, I swear I could be dreaming, but it looked like there was an ass in every seat, and they weren't full either. So I don't know what's going on. The games aren't as big but that was a hell of a game for a while, and the distraction of the delays, I think, affected Baylor more than it did TCU.
Yeah, and the fans.
Because they're the home team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You don't have to get in the car, drive home, or whatever. Right. Hey, great to see you without the neck brace.
All right,
Physical
guys.
therapy. Thank you, Coach. Yep.
Congratulations. What'd you hit?
I hit
7 iron?
I hit a cut 5 hybrid. I cut. It was 185 up the hill.
It was the big uphill one.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Phil Bennett, longtime football coach with a lot of news notes and his opinions too.
How about that? The fact that 3 coaching firms have already called him, or hiring firms, whatever you want to refer to them as.
Search firms.
Search firms. Yeah.
That's the phrase I was thinking of and not able to come up with. But yeah, 3 search firms have already. He mentioned the guy who I'm sure he's been asked about there at the very end, Colin Klein.
Yeah.
I think that he's probably had a call about him just in regards to Oklahoma State or any other number of jobs. But yeah, he knows everybody, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I think Colin Klein is a good fit for a lot of like jobs. Like Oklahoma State, I think the biggest one right now. But I mean, you told me that like he wants to be a head coach now, and
Arkansas or something.
Arkansas, maybe, yeah. Or like if those jobs don't come calling and UAB does, he might do that just to say like, hey, I'm ready. I'll go. But I think he's ready to be a head coach now. Look, you got a good job. Like, you don't, because you're at A&M, you're successful. You don't have to just take the first one that comes along either. But I would be shocked if he's not like getting one.
The first one that comes along, the first 10, 11, 15.
I mean,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
No,
you don't want this job? Well, how about this job?
Yeah.
No. How about this one? No. How about this one? And just go on and on.
This is a good year to be a guy with potential.
Oh, it's a good year to be a football coach, even if you're getting fired.
Great year to be an agent.
Yeah, absolutely. Even more so. So, super chat when we come back. Okay, Paul's top 5, super chat, quizzes, poll results, and spin the wheel. All of that and more. Man, I can't wait till tomorrow's show because we're going to dig more deep into the AP Top 25 and chaos in the Big 12. This is 365 Sports.
But love is passion. Something you can't live without.
Everyone is born with different gifts and skills. Everyone is unique and has something that only they can offer this world. And everyone has different needs that help them accomplish their day-to-day goals and challenges. But there's one thing that everyone needs, no matter who they are. Breathe cleaner. Puro Air.
Shipping your vehicle across the U.S. is a breeze with SGT Auto Transport. Step 1, get a quote. Step 2, we pick up your vehicle. Step 3, you receive your vehicle. Choose SGT Auto Transport for seamless, reliable vehicle shipping. Get started today.
This is the Sonos Arc Ultra, and this is what you need to know about. It represents one of the easiest ways to get into high-quality home cinema without loads of cables and faffing around. And that's because the Arc Ultra provides full Dolby Atmos without any rear speakers thanks to its sound motion technology. And Sonos is actually calling sound motion one of the most significant breakthroughs in audio engineering in nearly 100 years. It's an amazing setup, it sounds absolutely fantastic, I love the absence of fat. If you're a Sonos person, there's a reason you're watching this video.
What does being different mean to me? You know, that is an interesting question.
Because there really isn't one way. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Use our promo code 365sports at flagandanthem.com. Today is a top 5 I've been waiting all year to do, not in glorious anticipation. I don't take joy in the firing of anybody most of the time, but these are the top 5 Florida candidates. We knew that this was going to happen. We just didn't know when, but the second bye week, I think I called this last week that I thought that this was going to happen because it just made too much sense. Although I'm not bragging. I mean, it was pretty much reported that it was going to. I just know how to read the tea leaves. It's an acquired skill. Number 5, John Sumrall from Tulane. Now, I don't think this one is as likely to happen if the Gators can get through the first kind of level of moonshot candidates that they're going to have, mostly because they had a group of 6 coach before with Billy Napier. While I think John Sumrall is an infinitely better coach than Billy Napier is, I don't think that the fans are going to settle for the coach from Tulane, no matter how good he is, which will make schools like Kentucky breathe a sigh of relief, because when that job opens up, and believe you me, it will, John Sumrall is their top choice. Number 4, Brent Key. I genuinely hope that this does not happen, because Brent Key is a damn good coach, and Florida would be very smart to hire him. I kind of hope that he's still out there for another job that might come open, or that he stays at Georgia Tech, which has needed a coach like this for a few years before he came along. Brent Key is intense. His players play hard. They don't make mistakes. He's just coaches people up well. He's gotten the absolute most out of Haynes King, and he knows how to build leaders on a team. It is something Florida has lacked for a very long time, and Brent Key could bring them that stability. Still, I think most of the Florida faithful wants to see a bigger swing than the Georgia Tech coach. Number 3, Clark Lee. He's winning at Vanderbilt. Now, he is a Vanderbilt alum. Are you ever going to win a national title at Vanderbilt? I don't know. Things are very different now. So maybe he doesn't want to go. Maybe he wants to stay in Nashville and really make Vanderbilt his program through and through. But I do think that they will give him a call. I also did not add Eli Drinkwitz to this list. You could switch out Clark Lee and Eli Drinkwitz on this list kind of interchangeably. Number 2, James Franklin. Now, I think Florida fans might ho-hum this a little bit as well, but James Franklin is 10-2 or 9-3 every single year. Now, if you are a Florida fan, make sure your jorts are on right now. Look next to your cousin and tell them that you love them, that you can't see them anymore because it's wrong, and 3, that you would give anything for them to be 10-2 and 9-3. I kid because I love many Gator fans in my life. Way too many, but I have a lot of Gator fans that are friends of mine who aren't married to their cousin and stopped wearing jorts in the 90s. Even still, you would kill for James Franklin's consistency at Florida. Absolutely kill for it. You also put up with a coach with his attitude for a very long time. He won you a couple of national titles, and that's Urban Meyer. Now, the best part about James Franklin is that James Franklin has all the coaching acumen and the discipline of Urban Meyer, but without the whole let's recruit anybody who will play football here in spite of their, lack of humanity. Those things are all good things. James Franklin could bring about a consistency in Gainesville that they have not known since Urban Meyer left. And as a matter of fact, a consistency that might be a little bit more baseline than even Urban Meyer, because he was always only going to be there for a short time, because that's how Urban Meyer is. He's kind of like Bill Parcells. Number 1, Lane Kiffin. Look, he's the perfect fit for Florida. He's what they want. He's who they want. Now, the big question on Lane Kiffin is, will he go if offered that job? Is the Florida job infinitely better than the Ole Miss job? I don't think it is anymore. I don't think many jobs are better than the ones that a lot of these guys are succeeding at right now, because it's about being in the top 12, getting the playoff, and seeing what happens. Do you like your AD? Do you like your president? Is your collective backing you up? Are you in a strong league? Can you do all those things? Well, Ole Miss and Florida, they're the same right now. They're the same. The only thing that Florida has over them is national titles historically, but the last one came a very long time ago, and the rules have changed. All of college football is different right now. So Lane Kiffin could be the man at Ole Miss forever and then have to go and do at Florida what he hasn't yet done at Ole Miss or anywhere else, and they'll still be disappointed. If I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm giving serious thought to staying at Ole Miss, because I don't think the jobs are all that different anymore. Now, there was a period where, look, Florida was a far better job than Ole Miss. That used to be the case. It's not anymore. We saw Curt Cignetti pick Indiana over everybody else. You know why? Because he has all the same advantages that everyone else does if everyone's willing to play ball with him. and Lane Kiffin seems to have that at Ole Miss. That's going to do it for us and Chevrolets Carnival right now.
All right, well, it's going to start with a super chat, Pablo, and it is from Kim Coulter and retired stockbroker. Chris sends this out. Never bring a knife to a tortilla fight.
That's not bad.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
And we also had this from Kim. I'm disappointed in you, David. Matt Rule is a freaking goat. Snot bubble. Kim has handled the loss by Tech very well, by the way. He said it. He goes, Sam Leavitt was the best quarterback. He's the one that outplayed Hammond, but also he understood that was a possibility. So thank you, retired stockbroker, and also Kim Coulter.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to you both as always. Appreciate your support. It really does mean a great deal, although we don't probably say it enough. It does, and we acknowledge that on and off air how much you guys have meant to what we're doing here. So again, thank you. And yeah, I'm proud of Kim and all the rest of the Red Raiders who have taken this in stride. There's a long season to go. They're still very much in the whole big picture. It's just you're not going to go unbeaten. Yeah. That's the only thing. And now you're not fully in control, but you're still in control of getting to the title game for the most part. I mean, just go win your games and you'll be in a good spot. But that kind of shattered the illusion of they're just going to run the table. Like, remember the comment I brought up last week about certain Tech fans when the whole tortilla thing was going on and people were like, well, just think like if you make the play. We're making we're in the playoff already. And
you said in the Mojo rankings that they're like this looks like they're the favorite, but now that changes.
It changes.
But that's why we do it week to week.
I think fans, and I think Oregon's the avatar for this. You need to stop acting like you've done it until you've done it. I think that's what holds Oregon back. Mm-hmm. Oregon does everything like they are 3-time national champions. And they're 0-time national champions.
Yes.
I think that's what holds them back. Because
I agree.
They don't realize they haven't done it yet, and that can happen to anybody.
That list of 6 teams unbeaten, we'll get into that tomorrow again, but that's going to be 0, I think, before the end of the year.
Texas Tech, BYU here in the next month. It's going to be.
Indiana eventually plays Ohio State, and that's if they don't fart before that. All right, spin the wheel, Pablo. I like that.
What's the best ice cream flavor?
Oh, God.
I have the simplest one. I said this in my last meal thing, but Bluebell Dutch chocolate ice cream is my go-to. And I actually like to do where I make it soft serve with my spoon. I mix it up to get it to a soft serve consistency. Sometimes a little bit of chocolate syrup to mix in as well. But imagine that plain Jane. You might have predicted vanilla. No, it's just Dutch chocolate.
Look, there's a Ninja Creamy that makes soft serve. That's Craig's Christmas gift this year.
Okay.
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
I'll get a pint of chocolate, Dutch chocolate, Bluebell, the pint about that big. I'll take it out of the freezer, put it on the counter. Sometimes let it sit for a little bit longer than I need to. You spin the top, lick it. It's smooth. And you start taking the spoon. It just easily comes in off of the that's it.
And this is how to eat ice cream with 365 Sports.
Now, sometimes I'll just squeeze it into a bowl then with whipped cream, Paul.
Now, I will tell you, Dutch chocolate, great. Bluebell, great. There's so many great types of ice cream. I'm going to stick with my people, though. I'm going to go with some nice, chocolate and vanilla swirl gelato. Okay. I will always, I never really, it wasn't a thing you got. When we were, in the 90s, it wasn't you couldn't get it growing up. And then since I've become an adult, it's been very popular. So much so that occasionally at Cowboys games, especially I'm sure they had it this week, but they had a halftime gelato bar, usually when Dan Snyder came in. And so I really got addicted to it then. And I was like, well, good on you, my people.
But is there a favorite flavor
of chocolate and vanilla swirl?
Okay.
I'll keep it simple. I can have almost any of it, but chocolate vanilla swirl, keep it simple and do that. I mean, my favorite Bluebell is chocolate chip. So I'm not I don't need a complicated ice cream, although I will eat a complicated ice cream.
All right, gelato. Wasn't that also someone who was a movie person?
Gelato?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You're trying. You're trying for something addition. There's
nothing there. The guy with the stick figure,
gelato.
No, none of us have any idea what you're referring to.
All right.
You mean Geppetto?
Yes.
Oh,
Geppetto.
Oh, God.
Garrett's acting like we should have translated gelato to Geppetto.
Yeah.
I did not connect those dots, but Garrett did. So thank you, Garrett.
Garrett and I.
You're on a wavelength together.
All right,
by the way,
you can turn the music on.
Real quickly, what would your flavor be, Garrett? Just the right mic.
Oh, Chunky Monkey Ben & Jerry's.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Dirty hippie.
By the way,
some sprinkle of CBD.
By the way, tomorrow we will have to get into the and I just killed that joke because I stumbled all over it. Sorry, that was a good line by you, by the way. But we're gonna have to talk about that Cowboys Commanders game a little bit tomorrow.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, by the way,
why would you want to bring that?
Because the Cowboys are back.
No, yeah,
they're totally all the way back. They're totally fine now. I love how the announcers are like, "This has been a dominant performance by the Cowboys," and they go on to mention the Cowboys defense. Washington is without their 3 top receivers, and Jason Daniels is hurt, but it's still a great performance. And I'm like, there's a little bit of a caveat there.
I'm sure they were all morning on ESPN about Brandon, real quick, lean into the mic. I know we got to go. What was your favorite chocolate or your favorite ice cream flavor?
I like the Reese's peanut butter.
All right. Okay. Now let's get to what we have. Quizzes.
Yeah.
Andrew Valade. This Major League team was the first to have an organ played during a game.
I believe it was the Cubs.
I'm going to say the Cubs because the only team I relate to having an organ. Yeah. I mean, I know others have it, but that's the one I think of.
I believe it's the Cubs.
I almost misread that.
Yeah. Oh. Well, if that was the case, it was Babe Ruth.
Yes. We'll say the Cubs.
Yeah, Cubs.
There we
go. Yeah.
Ray Nelson played the organ, Wrigley Field, first time. 1941 heard the organ music at Major League games without proper copyright permissions. It was removed after 2 games. He didn't return for years. Organ music grew into popularity with the Dodgers and much more. Wrigley Field permanently brought back the organ in 1967.
And wait till if you ever go and you get to hear it. It's very nostalgic and awesome. All right, what do we have next here? Okay. This decade saw the NFL retire leather helmets in favor of a more protective gear. Smokey, this is all you.
1940s, that's because there's a helmet in the emoji, which to me is always a clue.
I mean, it's for the World War II. It's that kind of helmet.
I know, but it's protective gear.
Yeah,
None of the other
I
stuff.
do think it is the 40s, though. I agree with you.
1960s is Garrett when he should have been born with the.
Yeah, with his chunky monkey.
Yeah. All right, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I think we keep pointing out that that the clues match that or whatever. Andrew's definitely going to go and try to plant seeds of doubt. And look at this obvious answer right next to because we kind of caught that maybe a couple times. So I don't know. It almost seems. I guess he doesn't really have that set up this way, but you pointed that out, and I think he's smart enough to go around that now. Or he's really fooling us because he is doing it intentionally, but we're thinking he's not.
What is the damn answer?
Yeah.
There we go.
So the 40s, they ever replaced helmets with plastic ones in 1949, adding padding and face bars by the 1950s. Polycarbonate helmets arrived in 1986. Offering greater impact resistance over time. Modern innovation, the Rydell Revolution, Shutt Ion 4D, and Guardian caps now required for most practices have helped cut concussions 17% from 2023 to 2024.
It's a pretty good jump, a pretty good decrease.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's.
I love that old Vikings helmet.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I knew they had plastic helmets by the 50s because I've seen pictures of my dad without a face mask, mind you. But with a plastic
that
helmet.
answers some questions. And I played with the old shell where they had just those tough leather. I took some heat. I took some hits. Okay.
They finally figured out how to have cool looking helmets that also protect your head.
Those Vices is whatever.
When they first had remember the big helmets, like the first original, concussion, they had the extra shell on it. And I know that
like the one in the bottom right-hand corner.
That's a cap that they put on top,
right,
but it was more of like the extra plastic shell on top that some guys wore. But now they've got it to where it looks cool and it is healthy for you, or as healthy as it can be, smashing heads against people. But okay, 2-0.
Cool. So now to the poll results. 7-0 Aggies. Will they stay? Do they stay in the top 3 by season's end? First of all, I think that's going to be impossible for almost everybody, but maybe 1 or 2 teams, but they would be a part of that. I said they'll be top 5, but not top 3.
They've got LSU on the road, Missouri on the road, South Carolina at home, SEC special against Samford on November the 22nd, and then A&M and Texas in Austin on November the 28th.
Well, we know they'll hyperventilate in that game.
Yeah. Look, I'm not crazy enough to think that they're going to only lose one game. I mean, this is Texas A&M, by the way, but I do see things that over years of my life I have not seen, which is the Aggies not just wilting in situations. Mike Elko's established a good culture there. I think that they will remain a top 10 team for the rest of the year, although that's not one of the choices here, but I do think that they're quite good. I mean, they're really good.
Their offensive explosiveness gives them a chance if the defense, like they've had it 2 or 3 times, is not there, but they do have to tidy up that defense.
I definitely think they're going to take one on the chin here. What do you think about the game this weekend, Garrett? Do you have faith in LSU?
Beats the hell out of
you
them.
do? Okay.
Even in Baton Rouge,
beats the hell out of them.
Night game. Okay. All right, fair enough. I mean, I could see like Missouri jumping up and getting them maybe, but I mean, there's a really good chance they do run the table. I'll say I would go top 5, not top 3. I'm not quite there, but if you go with that top spot, I don't blame you because they're going to be favored in every game the rest of the way, except for maybe that Missouri game. But even then, I think they'll be favored.
Yeah, and look, they are playing better than every team that's left on their schedule today. Now, whether that holds past October,
yeah.
Well, and we know if they're 11-0, they will definitely lose to Texas in that final game. Like that would just be that's just going to happen. I mean,
that's exactly right. Or have somebody injured or 2, 3 weeks or a week before the game. All right. What is the main driver of Vanderbilt's stunning football success?
It's Coach Lee. I mean, look, I know that Diego Pavia is great, but Coach Lee had to find Diego Pavia.
Yeah, I mean, that game, we didn't talk much about it because we got so much, but I know we'll dive further into certain things tomorrow. And when we predicted this game last week, I said it just felt like this is Diego Pavia's next illustrious chapter was he's got to win this game. And sure as hell, that's exactly what he did. I give him a ton of credit. But, yeah, ultimately it falls on the head coach. I mean, it's not just Diego Pavia. It's Eli Stowers, and it's your defensive guys, and it's your assistant coaches. And so he put all of that together. The leadership had to support what he was doing. They had to fund the money to bring Diego Pavia back.
Yeah.
I go to Coach Lee's vision, but all of this mattered. It definitely mattered. And Pavia is just he's a fun story that I'm glad he's leaving college because I feel like that's part of the charm of college is you need to leave eventually. I saw, what was it? DeQuan Finn, year 7. He was playing, or he's playing right now. And I'm watching that. And so I'm just saying, I saw him in a box score the other day for whoever he's playing for. And is it Toledo again? Or
No,
it's somebody
Miami,
up Miami, Ohio.
Miami, Ohio. Yeah. So I was just thinking, like, that's part of the charm of college is you do have to leave, but I am going to miss Diego Pavia when he does. He's like one of those characters that's just, he's perfect for college football.
This is from SJL +6, that what Vanderbilt did was hire the coordinators who were at Vanderbilt. And then they brought, back, and they brought Pavia with them. That was, in the old days of college basketball, you would hire the high school coach who had the superstar high school kid. All right.
Well, that's because his backups also came from there.
Absolutely.
Like, so when
And the other thing is I saw the story where Pavia, no, that was Signetti in Indiana. The brother of Mendoza was already on the roster.
Yeah, that's how they got to know each other. But yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt, I think it's like a little bit of everything listed there, but it's a great story. What a great win for them. And excited to see what they do the rest of the way. I mean, this is going to be a hell of a second half we're in store for, boys.
So much more to get to tomorrow. We didn't even touch part of it. We will get to that and more, plus guest with Ari Temkin, Shahan Jararaja, and John McClain. We appreciate you. Please, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Where are we, Andrew? Where are we? Right on the cusp of 69,000. So if you're a part of Twitter, but you're not on YouTube, please click the subscribe button on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, please do. For Logan and Andrew and Garrett and Brandon, and for Paul and Craig, and for me, David Smoak, thank you so much for your time. Good night, 365 Sports.